everybody? How you doing today? Welcome in. It is a beautiful day. Hope you got outside, enjoyed the sunshine a little bit. It's in the 90s here, but it's not like that oppressive, horrible heat that we're used to here. And we're getting ready for football season to start, my friends. So, go bye. A lot to talk about, I guess, today, right? There's, yeah, Tara stayed up late. All right, I appreciate it, Tara. Love having you here. Yeah, welcome in, everybody. It is great to have you. This is one of the craziest weeks in the case by far, for sure. We got new documents today. It was today or yesterday, whatever it is. Donna Salamander, hello, Stormy Jane. Welcome in, Tara, Roe. Yeah. So let's see who else the flies catch today. The spider catches the fly. I got a bunch of news too, and we got Operation JJ Vance, and we're also gonna have hopefully Shadow Creature from the Dark Depths of Hell. Yes, sir. But I'm gonna get this reel started. I've been excited to show it to you here. It's a good one. So hope you enjoy, and let's not waste any more time.
I'm already giving you some. A lot, all day. That's all you've been doing is begging for treats. Because they're in there. Someone left the cupboard open. You can see them all. What?
Euphigenia Doubtfire, dear. I specialize
Where's
in
the
education
basement?
and entertainment.
Excuse me?
Entertainment.
Aren't we gonna see the basement?
There's no basement at the Alamo.
Candy and the sun. Will you make me a woman? Showtime. I know you're used to Lucy, but I run daggers for you. Daggers for you. I know you're used to Lucy, but I run go pump 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 some neurons. I know you're used to Lucy. Dinner, dinner, dinner. Such a shun. It tastes good. Such a shun. I know you're used to Lucy, but I run. Surprise. Hip hop, bebop. Dance till you drop. Hip hop, bebop. Doesn't mean that they don't love hip hop, bebop. Bop, bop, bop. Dance till you drop. Hip hop, bebop.
November 9815 Link, Fort Dodge, go ahead.
I'm telling you where I'm going. I'm gonna crash. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
9815, let me say last known position. 915 Lima, say altitude. I'm rolling! Oh my God! Help! Calling Fort Dodge, release the stick, go forward on the stick, and then slowly back again. I'm level, I'm straight level, I don't know where I am!
Sunday night, I am very single, and the thought of resting my head upon the bicep of a man sounds slightly...
Welcome to another episode of Bad Design. Once again, having anyone proofread your work is the way to go. But there are certain times where employing a 13-year-old boy to check your design is more the way to go. And let's end on two good designs. Whoever took this picture, you're my favorite person.
You can tell from looking at me not doing well financially.
Do you know how this fire started?
Yes, I do. It was because of my cousin. And I don't want to mention no names.
Your cousin?
Yes.
And you say you think your cousin started this, do you know how or why?
He's mad because he can't get with me. I'm married to my husband. And it's a long story, just to make it short. Yeah, he already put him in the hospital once last month. And he figured he's going to do something else to get back.
All right, so right now, the fire has been put out. Thank you for the
car off right now, because I don't know if you're going to take off. It took you a while to stop. Turn the car off. That's all I'm asking you. Turn it off.
Sir, please, I'm asking you. I'm begging you, please. Please don't do this to me, please. Please don't do this to me.
You're killing me.
You're killing me. You're killing me.
I fucking love doing in the morning, okay? It's the fucking best time. I haven't even opened my eyes yet. It's already inside of me. Like, holy fuck, like, way to wake up and just, like, have a great fucking day. You know, like, I'm gonna go make you breakfast now. Like, fuck yeah.
My cousin and I visited my mom, and we thought that my mom had fallen asleep. So my cousin decided to tell me that she just took her 2 high school nieces out to dinner, and her nieces are obsessed with mukbang videos. You guys know what mukbang videos are? Okay, if you don't know, it's this big trend on YouTube. People order massive quantities of food, and they eat them on camera. So her nieces love these mukbang videos, and they're at dinner, and one of her nieces cleans her plate so fast. And my cousin looks at her and goes, "Wow, Bailey, you should do your own bukkake videos."
About to do 3. What? 1, 2.
What's your name, my love?
Bryan.
Bryan. Ooh, it's very close to brain. Are you a smarty?
I don't know.
Oh, then that means no. Oh, and darling, what's your name? Lindsay. Oh, Lindsay, darling, what do you do?
I'm an attorney.
An attorney. Okay, just good. What kind of attorney?
Defense.
Defense? Oh, okay, we're fine. Okay, good. What is your favorite thing about being a defense attorney? You don't like it, do you? It sucks, poor baby. It's okay. He doesn't like his job either. Look at his face.
Jesus Christ. I don't even think the View wanted to show up.
This is my cake.
This is the
This is the smallest cake I've ever seen. This is my cake.
I'm pretty sure I saw that cake ducking through a doorway earlier. What are you even saying?
You know how big I wanted my cake. This is the smallest cake I've ever seen.
Then go date someone who gets a bigger cake.
I will.
Well, good luck finding somebody who has the budget for a birthday building.
Birthday is over. Everybody leave. Nobody gets the small cake. Close the music. Bye.
I get it. I mean, that cake is just, you know, that thing is probably afraid of ceiling things.
Oh, God, not again.
It's not hard to do.
Oh shit.
Now we're having a super life.
Yo, KB, is that the name you claim? Rolling through genres, let me play this game. Rap like a madman, Eminem with the slang, spitting bars so sharp like a rap hangman. From YouTube fame to Idaho's wild ride, you're breaking it down, putting truths aside. Kane B got the purge, no doubt he's the king, breaking down the case like a YouTube machine. Kane B the purge, bringing heat in the booth. Facts on the table, there's no room for proof. Throwing down lyrics while the world's watching. Is it guilty or free? That's the question we're knocking. KB the purge, taking it by storm. He's got the heat and the truth breaking the norm. We're all glued to this case, no one's letting go. Will Bryan be guilty or will he be let go? Kane B's in the game, watch him lay it all bare. Will justice find the truth or just disappear in the air? Here's my bubblegum pop, you ready or not? Kane B's in the mix with the case so hot. Rap, rock, pop, he's switching it up. Dancing through the genres like a YouTube cup. Got Kane B, the purge, putting the story in flow. Breaking it down with humor, watch the case blow. Boom, Kane B's riding with electric groove. Breaking it down, yeah, he's on the move. He's got the purge, so come and watch him reign. Sipping on knowledge like it's truth on a train. Kane B the purge, taking Idaho by storm. He's got the heat and the truth breaking the norm. We're all glued to this case, no one's let go. Will Bryan be guilty or will he be let go? Kane B's in the game, watch him lay it all bare. Will justice find the truth or just disappear in the air? Now here I am, R&B vibes on deck. Let's get a little smooth, but don't forget I'm bringing humor, I'm bringing the sound. But this case got us all spinning round. KB with the truth, it's hard to ignore. Like waiting for that next chapter in the lore. Kane B with the truth, it's hard to ignore. Like waiting for that next chapter in the lore.
Woo-hoo. Welcome in, everybody. Doing today, we got news coming up right now for you. Hold on 1 minute here. Got real quiet in the chat there. Hope you like that little roll I had there. And let me switch over to the thing there and see if JJ Vance pops in here in a minute. And let's see here. Got some serious stuff to start off with. This is a guy mowing yards.
Besides, if you get in my way, there's going to be problems. You understand?
I didn't break any laws. I just wanted to help someone who couldn't afford help. Today, I went to mow the lawn for an 80-year-old widow. She lives alone, on a fixed income, and her front yard had grown wild after weeks of heat and rain. She told me the city had already warned her. Clean it up or get fined. Thing is, she can't afford to pay the $300 the city charges to cut it, so I offered to do it for free. I'd barely gotten halfway through when 2 police cruisers pulled up, lights on, doors swinging open. One officer steps out and says, "You need to shut that mower off now." I was confused. Thought maybe they were checking in. But then he told me I was trespassing and under investigation for unauthorized property maintenance. I pointed at the lady standing on her porch, waving frantically. She asked me to help, I said. She gave me permission. They ignored her. One of them told me the yard fell under a municipal code that made it restricted property because of pending fines. The woman kept pleading, trying to explain, but they wouldn't listen. One disruption of municipal process. I'm going back this week to finish the job before they fine her, even if it means getting arrested again.
Aside, because if you get in my way, there's going to...
So that's pretty incredible, right? The guy's trying to help her out, and take your time, JJ. Yeah, they arrested him, and so if you're listening, they have a municipal code where once you get the fine imposed, you have to use the city chosen private lawn company. Like, this has got to go. That's something that's just got to go. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting. Here's another. I don't know what that way. Where did it go?
Is that it?
Look at that tape on there.
Okay, oops. I don't know what that was. Sorry. Okay. I can't get over. I don't know if I even showed this the last time, the whole thing. When you talk about proofreading your work, somebody slipped this one by the goalie. I guarantee you that. And, yeah. U of I Meat Science Facility continues to take shape. It's a beautiful day outside. Tony's here. Twiz is watching. I don't know if it was Shannon Gray or what's going on. It sure seems... Hold on. What's going on here? Okay. Jenn's coming. And... Oh, it was probably too loud, Heather. Is the audio okay now, guys? Hopefully that's better. I put a compressor on, added some gain, so it sounds more like a radio voice. Does it sound like a radio voice right now? Do I sound like Bryan Seacrest? All right, let's see here. What was this? I gotta move this camera. Sorry. This is for JJ. Krispy Kreme is giving away free donuts to graduates. So I didn't know if he was a graduate or not, and he can get a free 3-pack if you wear your cap and gown to Krispy Kreme. Yep. And here we go. Kohberger defense asks judge to delay Idaho murder. Give me a 1 in the chat if my audio is okay. Now you got me Miss Potts in it over here. Heather, is that better? Was the audio for the reel good? Let me know. Just hit the like button for God's sake. Kohberger defense asks judge to delay Idaho trial after case details leak. Thank you, they live. Yeah, it might have gotten a little loud there for some of your TV. Mommy Ball, welcome in. Nice to see you today. I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. It is Fried Dizzle, and this is the Operation GCD podcast Fried Dizzle pregame show. So that's what we're here to do. It's a nice bleed in to his show. Tony's here. Twiz is watching. And if you're new to the Purge, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit for notifications, share the video to get it out there amongst your cute little friends so I have a better chance on my internet dating pool. And then jump on in the chat. Meanie don't bite. All right, attorneys for Bryan Kohberger kids go to bed. The man charged with the 4 university block. Lead attorney Ann Taylor's public defense team filed Tuesday for the delay just 2 months before the schedule is checked. Wait. June, July. I guess is it really down to 2 months now? So if it does go down to, is it really bad? Okay, I'll take away my bad. Sorry, hold on, let me fix this. Is it really that bad? It can't be that bad. I'll take Doug's word for it, though. Alright, let's see here. Get that around gone. So much for my radio days. Here we go. Okay, that's better. And crank it on up. How's that? Okay, well, okay. Now you every 13th word. Is that a Masonic? I have Masonic audience today. Okay, that ought to fix it, hopefully. If not, I don't know. I needed to restart my computer. I probably should have done that. Sum it up for me in my own words. Let's see. You can all go fuck yourselves. Is basically what it comes down to.
This audio story is brought to you by your neighbors at the Bank of Commerce, where we work hard to be your bank of a lifetime, with decisions made locally and active support to the communities we serve. Come on by and experience the BFC difference. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Kohberger defense asks judge to delay Idaho murder trial after case details leak. Boise, Idaho statesman, attorneys for Bryan Kohberger, the man charged with killing 4 University of Idaho students, asked the presiding judge to postpone the long-awaited murder trial this summer in Boise, citing disclosure of previously unreleased case details that may have violated the court's gag order earlier this month in an episode of NBC's Dateline. Led by attorney Ann Taylor, Kohberger's public defense team filed Tuesday for the delay, just 2 months before the scheduled start of jury selection to kick off the trial. The defense's request, in a 40-page brief that posted to a state court's website Wednesday afternoon, came less than a week after Judge Stephen Hippler invited a formal request to consider appointing a special prosecutor to investigate the source of the leaked information. The legal filing, signed by Taylor, referenced the need to protect Kohberger's constitutional rights to a fair trial, including to provide enough time for the defense to review all.
Alright, I got the AC on now, so hopefully the audio's a lot better. It's 90 degrees here in Florida, come on. It's not like you can pull the AC out of the wall and move it over there. Sorry. Big Mikey, what's up? Alright, so, yeah, I can tell you a couple things happen around town here with this part. I didn't mean to get into this so early, but they call us pro-burgers. I happened to pop on to JLR's chat today, and he was talking shit about Twiz. He was talking shit about everybody, and he was saying these pro-burgers, they're so weird. They attack, and if they attack the Gonzalez's, and they hang on every word and all this stuff. And he's like, they better not attack me. I handle stuff. I do the adult thing, and I sue them. And I think Tara was in there, and she's like, yeah, he's got a real grip on the justice system. And he goes, none of them show their faces. They all hide behind masks. And I guess he was talking about Willie. And I'm like, is that right? And he's like, I don't know where they all live. And I'm like, I live in Clearwater. He knows where Clearwater is. He lives in Tampa. So I just thought the whole thing was kind of funny. But they're freaking out. He's like, oh, the Dateline special. They did such a great job. And the evidence is so obvious now, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wow, he really believes that a selfie is going to convict somebody. And then also around town, Viviana was talking about the how there's usually never any direct evidence in a capital case. It's always circumstantial. So she finally admits there's zero evidence against this guy. And it's not funny. It's damn serious. And what's going to happen when this case is thrown out, or whatever's going to happen, and regardless of whatever action somebody takes against the current defendant, it still leaves us, or whatever actions he takes, it still leaves us without suspects. People have split the scene, so to speak, and there's not going to be this thing won't stick. Stick. There, that is it. No? Okay, whatever. Shaggy's in here. What up, bro? Alright, so, alright, that's, what else? So, yeah, it seems coincidental that Facebook was taken down. Apparently there was a lot of hate speech on it. I never really read, the comments are the same. It's like you might as well just copy the paste on the comments on the Gonzalez family page there on the Facebook. And, we support you 100%, no matter what you say. And they're just like, give me money. And so, anyway, here they have a 40-page, which is over the 36-page limit. So I'm wondering if he'll allow it for that. Stupid. Alright, so anyway, yeah, I hate this thing. Is driving me absolutely nuts. Kids get rid. Okay. Yeah, they've broken every terms and conditions that there possibly are in the world. I think at this point they don't care, and they get away with it. There's not a problem. And so, yeah, JLR was also saying that, Kohberger doesn't even have an alibi, and why would you defend somebody that you don't think is innocent? And I'm like, wait a second. First of all, he's like accused. He's like, he's guilty, and everybody in the chat's like, he's guilty. I'm like, did I miss something? Was he convicted while I was away? Is that JJ? Hold on. I think we got a JJ happening here. Got a JJ situation, folks. Hold on. There. Oh, we got two people here. JJ Vance twice. Which one do you want to be? Do I have two JJ Vances today? Let me turn you on there, and let me see which one's. That's the one coming through. So I'll hang up this one. Alright. JJ. How come you're not coming through? Maybe you need to come out and go back in. Hold on.
Is this the Purge?
I hear you. I don't see you up there yet. Let me... I probably got to make you bigger or whatever. Hold on. Yeah, we're purging, bro.
Is this is the Purge?
Well, welcome in. Well, yes, sir. How are you? I was just
doing well. How you doing today, there, Kane?
I'm doing great, man. It's a nice day. Got a lot to talk about today, obviously, and I've been excited for this show all day. I am going to keep it short, maybe 7, 8 hours, or 3 hours. So I have to go to work at 7.
17 hours, I got you.
We're going to go right up till your show goes, so you have no break whatsoever.
Right. No, that's perfect. That 7 sounds good. I get to eat dinner before my show then.
Let me see why. Oh, there you are.
All this talk, all these pro burger talk you're talking about, it's made me quite hungry. I'm a pro burger. I'm a pro hula burgers.
Yeah, I've never really adapted to the name Pro Burger. I would say I'm more pro justice than anything else. I don't know Bryan Kohberger nothing, and he don't owe me nothing.
But you owe me some hula burgers, sir.
I'm deep in debt on the hula burgers. I apologize. I really do.
If hula burgers were the U.S. national debt, you'd be down about 32 trillion hula burgers right now.
Where's my flashy thing? I have a flashy thing. Hey, I was just about to get to your double diabetes video here somewhere in the news. This happened.
Oh, this is the type 2 diabetes theater.
Check out this guy. He committed first degree. I don't know if he's really interested in the camera person or, but yeah, here's the story. Where's the headline? So he pewed someone there. 53-year-old man has been arrested for first degree in Nez Perce. So this is another name we can add to the list here, guys. I don't know. It just seems to be like bang, bang all around. Victor Gray, Gray, was present at the scene, was detained as a person of interest after gathering evidence. Witnesses get Gray was arrested and is currently being held at Nez Perce County adult. So I don't know. What do you think? Isn't that weird that the day that, well, adjacent to the day that Gray is supposed allegedly leaking this stuff? He kind of looks like Gray a little bit, doesn't he? He doesn't live in Oregon though.
He looks like he's on to meth. That's what I see in those eyes, is meth.
The poor man's yayo?
The poor man's bathtub yayo, if you will. So Shanon Gray's actually from rural Missouri, strangely enough.
Really?
He went to school in Columbia for his undergrad, Columbia, Missouri, that is, the University of Missouri. And he went to law school in Oklahoma City and then landed a job at the prosecutor's office out of college there in Portland, Oregon, where he then went into private practice later. Now he's opened up one of those businesses to recruit college athletes. You know how they're paying the college athletes to transfer now? He's opened up one of those businesses that do all those deals. Not really a sports agent, but in a sense, kind of. And that's out of St. Louis. So he seems most of his family that I've tracked is all back there in Missouri.
Wow, that's a good business, especially in colleges. That's a
very lucrative business. Are you familiar with the Ohio State Buckeyes' recent national championship in football?
Yeah.
Brought to you by Lex Wexner and his financing. So he opened up a fund at Ohio State. He's a large Ohio State donator, financier. He opened up a fund there to finance all these student-athlete transfers. So when these student-athletes that got paid $2 to $5 million, a number of them, to transfer to Ohio State to win that championship, that's courtesy of old Jeffrey Epstein's sole client, Les Wexner. There we go. Leslie Wexner is his legal name.
Ms. Potts is saying that Shanon Gray also switched to criminal defense.
Yeah, that's pretty common. Yeah, I mean, that's his specialty. Again, he's a pretty from every record I could find of him representing folks there in Portland area. There, he's in Oregon. He's a pretty run of the mill, hood rat criminal defense attorney.
I'm sorry, Tara. That's sad to hear. That is a very traumatic event. That's the worst thing that can happen. How is your dog doing?
Oh, I can't. Yeah, it's tough to lose a dog. No, I definitely agree with you there. Sorry about that, Tara. Yeah, my dog, old Abner boy, he's doing well. But I lost his predecessor. Was really my first dog that I got from my son after I'd retired from the Air Force. I had more time to train a dog and raise a dog, and help my son, learn those things. And he was only like 9 at the time, so it was tough watching that dog go. You know what I mean? So this is my second dog, so it's they're both characters though. I do love dogs.
Abner.
Oh. Everyone gets tripped out at dog parks. Like, what's your dog's name? And I tell them, I said Abner. They're like, that's a weird name. I'm like, well, I mean, it's his name. Thank you though.
I like that. I love that. My dog was named Hockey, but my girlfriend used to take him.
I named him after one of my forefathers, Abner Vance. He served as a spy and a scout for George Washington during the wars of 1776.
Nice. I was watching that thing about the Appalachian The couple that started in the Northwest and was going to go do the whole trail. And then they ran into the guy that looked like this dude.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with that case, the Appalachian Unaliver or whatever.
This went down on the Appalachian Trail, huh?
Yeah, I was going to run the documentary here. Let me see what I got here. Are we going to see your face today, JJ? Or are you just a Muppet all day? Is it a protest?
I'm right there. That's me. I'm LARPing as Howard Bloom, Muppet style Howard Bloom.
It's a mystery. All right, we'll get back to Miss Potts here in a minute. This
Perhaps to look him in the eyes.
Probably Heather. Yep, Heather. We'll get to that. And then let's see here. So this was the first thing they had for us was the. Okay, so there's new documents today, right, JJ?
The coolest thing I've seen any state.
There's all sorts of new developments, right?
Lot of stuff. This thing won't stop playing.
You can now officially apply.
Oh wait,
your auto insurance rate.
Okay, I was like, what is this? The first thing is they're sealing the alternate suspects list. How much more stuff can they seal? Was my audio bad, by the way? Was it really bad?
You're loud and clear on my end, sir. They can steal everything. Here's the other thing. Let's say they even do get the roommates to testify. I mean, what's to say they're not going to plead the fifth? I highly suspect they're not going to testify, but let's say they're not. There's not. That's what I'm getting at is that not only are we going to see a ramp up back, I think, with the sealing of everything again, we're also going to see a complete closure, shutdown of any sort of access to information prior to the trial, which is obviously going to be delayed. It seems like it's obviously reasonably. It's obvious it should be delayed, whether or not it does get delayed.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have said that it won't get delayed, that it's set in stone. There's a reason they picked that date, but I wouldn't be surprised to see if they go to a third judge on this one now.
Well, I would agree. There's a reason they picked that date. It's funny you say that because that's. I don't know if this is, actually why they picked the date. I'm just saying it's funny you say that. That's the anniversary of the Manson family murders. August 11th.
Is it really?
Yeah, they went on their killing spree on the night of the evening of August 9th, assaulting these are the murders blamed on the Manson family. You'd be surprised the lack of forensic evidence involved in any of these things, or maybe you wouldn't be considering this case. But I'm not saying my old cousin Charlie there is innocent by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying that the crime is pinned on the quote unquote Manson family. The forensic evidence supporting that is nil, and even by the state's own admission, Manson wasn't present at these murder scenes, so. He allegedly just ordered them, but nonetheless, the rampage started on August 9th, evening of August 9th, and the early morning hours of August 10th at the Tate Polanski house, and then on the subsequent evening on the 10th into the early morning hours of the 11th at the La Bianca home. So the official rampage begins on the 9th, ends around, I believe, 3 a.m. on the 11th. So that would be the anniversary on the 11th of the Manson family murders.
So it's literally the anniversary. Wow. How many years has it been? 40, 50?
Yeah, that was 46 years ago, friend. 56 years ago.
So anyway, yeah, a lot of there's also a document F or exhibit F.
What did you call me, sir?
You heard me. I got your F right here.
You got your F right here, buddy.
We'll have Hershey's shadow reader there.
Gotta have respect for our kayak fishermen out there, man. They got great whites.
What was that? I was just being a smartass. What were you saying?
Hippos out here.
I'm just watching this hippo eat this kayak.
Would have took you out.
Nice.
Gotta have respect for our kayak fishermen out there, man.
Hippos are some violent creatures. You don't want to mess with them.
They'll fuck you up, friend.
Yeah, they're pretty territorial. So I didn't get a reaction on this except for the type 2 diabetes video. I didn't mean to rub your face in it, but I did get the Pac-Man donuts. I
saw that. I was super jealous of that, dude. I wanted some donuts in my life.
I'll be honest. I went into diabetic shock I ate the strawberry one first, of course, and then I went for Inky, Blinky, Winky, and Clyde later. But I literally, it was like I took a dab or something, and I stared at the wall for like 40 minutes in like diabetic shock. It had the strawberry cream, the strawberry icing, and it was a full-on like eclair donut style thing. And I had it with some almond.
It looks
vanilla.
delicious.
Was
Was it as delicious as it looks?
It was better. The chocolate one was really good too. It had chocolate cream inside, which I've never seen that before. Anyway,
now you're talking my language, friend.
What is this? This is probably from some very serious.
Yeah, I would have probably gone to a similar diabetic coma as you did, because the most kind of sugar I usually get in a day is half a payday bar. You know what I mean? Because the other half goes to my dog. So
I still don't approve.
I know people forget when I feed him chocolate. He loves chocolate. I don't know.
Supposedly,
my old dog
bad for their liver. It'll kill them.
That's what they say. My old dog loved chocolate too, though.
My dog loved peanut butter.
Oh, well, that too. I have a
Just
series of
in
peanut
certain
butter
places.
dog treats on deck for him. What is going on here?
She can't get out of the dryer.
I see that.
What were you doing in the dryer, honey? He's threatening her that she's gonna have to pay for the 911 call if she keeps laughing.
You don't do dabs though, do you, Kane? Because those things are fucking evil, man.
No. I've had some friends that are into it, and they have the whole rig and the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a PSA ad for you if you start doing dabs. That shit's like, that's some legal crack right there.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy stuff. I've tried it, but it's not my thing.
Oh, I'm pretty sure the government engineered that to MK Ultra the entire population through legalized pot. Because don't get me wrong, I love pot, but that ain't pot, dude. That's a different level. That's some wild shit. And don't get me wrong, I've known to live life on the edge, so to speak, and throw caution to the wind, if you will. And I won't even touch that shit, dude. That's just wild, dude. I mean, I've tried it, but it's fucking wild.
It's also very expensive. It turns a regular, $20 a week habit into a $50, $60 a day thing. Not to mention all the gear you need. But anyway, PETA's Hell on Wheels truck to stage demonstration outside of Moscow restaurant. So the tensions grow. It'll be May 24th, I guess. Patrons visiting the Breakfast Club in downtown Moscow on Saturday may encounter more than just brunch crowds. So I haven't heard a lot from PETA in the last 2 years, have you? People
Pete?
for the ethical...
Who's Pete?
People eating tasty animals?
Nah, no, I'm just being a jackass. Yeah, I don't pay attention to those folks. I long try to connect them to the Best Friends Animal Society, but they don't seem to connect in any regard.
So this is for Heather Fitzgerald here. U.S. Department of Justice sues North Idaho town over zoning denial for Christ Church. And I have the article somewhere. Why would the Department of Justice sue for Doug Wilson, do you think? Let's see. For denying a condition use permit to let a far-right evangelical church hold services in its downtown. City members in Troy, Idaho, which is about 12 miles east of Moscow, denied the permit. The Department of Justice said in a press release Tuesday that denial was based on animus against the church and its teachings, which violates the religious land use. Okay, so it's all over just being able to preach here. Let's see what they say.
Pastor Ducky 25. The federal government is suing a small Idaho town for denying a conditional use permit to let a far-right evangelical church hold
is this
services
the
in
DOJ
its
lawsuit
downtown.
you're talking about? Yeah, dude, there's
City
just so
council
much,
members
like,
in
the
Troy,
more I look about all these things, there is so much weird, anomalous federal activity. So you can look at this situation on its face and say, like, well, religious freedoms, et cetera, et cetera. But then if you look at all these things in a deeper capacity, like, the Princess of Darkness there, Lucy Morningstar, has had me based upon her affinity for Doug Wilson and her constant notes on the subjects, which I do appreciate, but it's caused me to reevaluate that whole situation with him and the importance that dude and his organization plays in this region. And the more I look at it, the longer I look at it, it seems like a dispute that predates even him, but he's the current iteration of that dispute.
Yeah, I think he inherited the whole setup from his father.
Yeah, well, yeah. Not only that, what I'm saying is also the dispute is you can look at it politically. I don't traditionally look at it politically because politics is dumb, but it's obviously a very politically polarizing situation. But what it really is it boils down to is the moneyed interest behind those politics, right? So these left-leaning politics that he's ardently opposed to, well, he's financed by folks that. I'm assuming he's financed by folks that share political belief systems as him, but what the opposing belief system is really connected to the moneyed interest of these anti-liberty, globalist kind of moneyed interests here in America that are largely being perpetrated in recent years through the Democratic National Committee, but the Republicans are not off the hook. The RNC, that is. So I'm just saying, if you look at it
not by any means,
deeper lens.
I agree. Go on, I'm sorry.
No, if you look at it through deeper lens, it's just very interesting. His father's background as a naval officer, academy grad at Annapolis, seems to have been a classmate, perhaps, of the Mamas and the Papas leader, John Phillips. When he spent a year at Annapolis, seemingly at the same time as Doug's father there. I just think that's interesting in an overall process situation, because it was John Phillips that left the academy, became a rock star, and was financing the process operations in Los Angeles, Process Church, that is, according to a 1974 INS report.
And then you add in the whole Laurel Canyon thing, right?
Yeah, he was a big king of that scene, right? And again, his father was a career Marine Corps officer. I mean, not to say that my father was a career Marine Corps officer, so I'm not, I'm not diminishing him in that regard. I'm just saying, like, I didn't go to the academy for a year and leave under seemingly some sort of spook contract is what he seemed to have left under, right?
You know what? Looking at it, I think because the Birds were the first group out of that Laurel Canyon group.
The Birds?
You
had the Birds, you had
on the radio. And so it almost feels like that was a test situation to see how people react. At that time, they started pulling out the hallucinogenic stuff for people, and it went.
Oh, no, you're spot on.
Yeah, it went from the electric Kool-Aid acid test to a full-blown movement that took the wind out of the sails of the actual anti-war movement, which was like the labor unions and civil rights, right?
That's correct. There was actually clean-cut college students and their professors on college campuses. The hippies came in to undermine that movement with subterfuge, and the hippie movement erupted from Laurel Canyon via the Summer of Love Monterey Music Festival, which is all Laurel Canyon artists that comprised that, including Jimi Hendrix, despite being from Seattle. He was a Laurel Canyon guy there. He hung out with Jack Nicholson and the Monkees, Peter Tork. They were all best friends.
Which I always found odd. I always found that Hendrix, they went on tour together, is how they became friends.
Yeah, and
Hendrix actually opened for the Monkees. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right, no, you're right, and he played on that soundtrack of that film, the Monkees, and Jack Nicholson directed. They were all tight. This is like 67 or 68 around.
What film was that?
Was it Head?
Oh yeah. I did see that too.
It was either Head or the one before that.
Yeah, it was bizarre, really bizarre.
Oh, it's a trippy LSD film for sure. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. I'm thinking Head was not the one I'm thinking. I think that was the one Nicholson did after with Bob Yayo Evans' friend, Bert
Kreischer.
Oh, Bert Schindler. Yeah, he had a list. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it.
And
but back to the Birds. So you're totally right, and it's all the same people. So there was a proto Manson fellow in Laurel Canyon, because Manson's in prison at this point in time. We're discussing with the onset of the Birds. He doesn't get let out yet, and when he's pulled back in '69, he makes the comment when he's arrested for the murders that somebody pissed on his leash, meaning when a leather leash gets wet, it restricts. You know what I mean? So he kind of knew what he was doing in some regard, being let out of prison. I would argue he never went back to prison, but because every subsequent image and video we get of the man over the next few decades, his hair and beard never comply with the California penal code regulations. So, and his constituents and the male his male family members, if you will, in prison for these murders, Tex Watson, his hair and beard always comply with penal regulations and still does today on his mugshots. And Bobby Beausoleil, same with him. Now, Bobby Beausoleil was considered kind of Manson's number 2. Now, he was already in prison for a different murder that occurred months prior to the infamous Manson family murders. He got picked up, I believe. Strangely, he was sleeping in. The story goes he's sleeping in his car, and they just found the murder weapon in the glove compartment. So, again, very tenuous connections of forensics going on there. But Beausoleil's hanging out in this art gallery with the Byrds and his band. So Beausoleil's a guitarist for Arthur Lee and Love, right? Which was one of the early rock bands along with the Byrds. And they would hang out in this art studio in Laurel Canyon, owned by this fellow by the name of Vito Polikas. He was this proto-Manson fella. He was at the epicenter of all this activity. They seemingly sacrificed Polikas' newborn, or like 1 or 2 year old baby. I believe that was New Year's Eve, 1965. And then they all went out partying afterwards, and then reported the death to, later when they got back from partying and stuff. But, seemingly it looked like some sort of, sacrifice. That baby was due to star as Satan in a film by Kenneth Anger, who was a big OTO Thelemite Aleister Crowleyan, right?
The baby?
The baby was going to star in this film as Satan, right. It was called Lucifer Rising. So after the baby's death...
Is that the one with Jimmy Page? And...
yeah, they're all Crowleyites, right? So this is Kenneth Anger. He's all in that same mix. He's like the official...
Yeah, he's the guy that used to live with Jimmy Page, right? That put the curse on Jimmy Page and Zeppelin.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely, yes, sir. He's like the official filmographer for this whole crowd, right?
Right.
He was also boyfriends with Bobby Beausoleil previous to this. Or after this. So this is when him and Beausoleil initially link up 64, 65, like I said, and they're in Laurel Canyon with the Byrds. And again, Beausoleil was a guitarist for one of the Laurel Canyon bands, Arthur Lee and Love. They were a major band, right? One of the early ones too. And they're all hanging out at that art gallery of Vito Polikas. This was Polikas' art studio was the official band practice area for the Byrds and for Arthur Lee and Love. So this was all these occultists, all these Thelemites hanging out together. Well, after Polikas' baby, dies there on New Year's Eve in that weird death that doesn't get reported immediately. He was supposed to star in that Anger film. Well, the film gets made, and now Bobby Beausoleil plays the part of Satan. He replaces the young, now dead baby in the film. So that's odd. And then him and Anger would apparently go on to have a relationship for a few years after that, moving to San Francisco, which is where he meets Manson and the Haight and Ashbury, doing a bunch of process stuff, there with Manson. So when you're talking about the early onset of Laurel Canyon, you're still talking, Manson's not quite there, but it's still the same people, as you can see.
Well, the craziest thing I think a lot of people don't understand about what the Laurel Canyon situation is, you have the Eagles, all the guys from the Eagles. You had like Joe Walsh's band, Funk 49 or whatever, and then you had.
So that's the 70s. That's the transition in the 70s, Laurel Canyon, right there.
Right, and so
that's still the same deal, right?
My point is that you had Linda Ronstadt, that was literally taking over for Stevie Nicks as lead singer of Supertramp and doing all kinds of her own stuff, and then starts dating what was thought to be the next president of the United States in the governor there, Jerry Brown.
Governor Moonbeam Jerry Brown.
And
thrice the governor of California, and according to the files of Ed Sanders, a member of the Process Church of the Final Judgment.
No kidding. That makes sense. It was like mandated flower power with Jerry Brown. It would look like that was going to sweep the nation.
Oh, yeah. He was deep in the Laurel Canyon scene with Ronstadt, and he was, he had a lifelong relations with Ronstadt. You can find photographs of her on his plane as governor, just in the last couple, 20 years.
Yep. Yeah, I did see that documentary with her. It was there were so many documentaries. The Netflix one was really good, but there was some on YouTube that were pretty good. Are you doing your hair today, or are you going to show your face at all? Because Brian's asking who's on panel today.
It's Howard Bloom. I'm Muppet Howard Bloom.
Okay, you got curlers in, I guess.
I will join you in a minute. I've been dicking around with not finishing up this doobie I'm smoking. I keep jibber jabbering, and it's down to like a quarter left. So let me finish this off.
Fair enough.
Continue to jibber jabber, and
all right.
I will join you on. We'll join you on camera. I don't like going on camera a lot, even though that's strange since I host a show on camera, multiple shows, because I do feel like it steals my soul. I'd like to maintain some soul.
All right,
I'm half ginger, Kane. I was only born with half a soul, so.
If anybody remembers this Jennifer Kessie disappearance in Bradenton, Florida, there's new evidence that's emerged. Grainy security camera footage caught a person parking Jennifer's car and walking away. Does anyone remember? But poor video quality and little to no additional have made the person unidentifiable. Now there could be hope. I'm driven to find my daughter, her dad said. So, what was the evidence there? Should I play this? Yeah, I'll just play it. Let that load. Oh, I didn't turn up your echo, and it's working. That's weird. Let me turn it off just in case. Oh, we got audit. Oh, that's commercial. Okay.
You know what the problem is?
Huh?
Well, there's new details on Jennifer Kessie's disappearance. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I remember that kid.
Let's see what they say here. Get this commercial. Yeah, I did too until I heard.
October 2006. When did this happen? Where were you? What's your alibi?
Where
you
was
driving
I
a
in
launcher? You got
2006?
eyebrows.
I just moved into my new house in Countryside. That one I drove by that one day. Let's see what they have to say here.
I have to be honest with you. More important than finding Jennifer, I see it as a father's duty.
An update now on a cold case, nearly 20 years of pain for Jennifer Kessie vanishing without a trace. Many have been clicking on our web story detailing the newest developments from this case with Suncoast ties.
Jennifer Kessie's father lives in Bradenton, and he tells ABC7 he may be getting closer to uncovering the truth about what happened to her.
ABC7 Sophia Vitillo reporting on new developments in her disappearance.
It's a case many considered cold, but now we're hearing just the opposite from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The FCLE giving new information to Kessie's parents, who have spent nearly 2 decades looking for their daughter. This week, the Kessie family celebrates Jennifer's 44th birthday for the 19th year in a row without her.
We have dinner and we have cake and we raise a glass and toast her, even though she's not there. And it's just a normal thing for us to do.
But one phone call giving them hope that next year's celebration could be different.
It seems as though through their 2 years of investigation that they have really whittled down the persons of interest, and it seems that we are being told that it is a very short list at this point.
Kessie vanished from her condo in Orlando back in 2006. Grainy security footage caught someone parking her car and walking away, but poor video quality and little to no additional evidence making this person unidentifiable. But now
they found more evidence that has never been tested. Huge. You know, who knows where that could lead.
You know, some people are saying that this has given you hope, but I think you've always had hope. Am I right about that?
It's an undocumented immigrant, an illegal, if you will, I bet.
Yeah, I always, this was one of the first cases that I remember where video was a really big part of the evidence.
Exactly, dude. I was just about to say the same thing, and look at how crisp and clean and all that video they had from a distance, right? They could still zoom in and see some shit. And then in this case, in Idaho, we're just like, yeah, here's some like 180p grainy stuff.
Yeah, with him, you had the gait of his walk was one thing that they focused on, I remember.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was kind of the maiden voyage of this kind of forensic activity. and it doesn't seem like it ever got there. So I don't know what kind of other evidence that they discovered. They're not really saying, but I thought it was interesting. Yeah, in Idaho.
I think again, it's one of those. I look at one of these cases like a lot of these cases that don't, for seemingly, despite the evidence, they never really got anywhere with it, right? It's like that case I was talking about on the last Purge with Cy Ray. He tells about a case he investigated as the lead detective down there, homicide detective down there in the Phoenix suburb, Gilbert. I believe he was in Gilbert.
There's a lot of cases in Phoenix, I'll tell you that.
Well, this, Gilbert's a rather nice suburb of Phoenix, right? Over there on the east side of town. And he describes how Gilbert, no, I think that's on the west side. Anyhow, I lived in Scottsdale, so I didn't really, go too far out of the outer lying areas of Phoenix, but it's one of the nicer suburbs. I didn't know that much, Gilbert. Anyway, that's where Cy Ray was a homicide detective investigating a homicide where a cartel they put out a hit on somebody within their network, and they hit the wrong house. So they were some lady was working for the cartel as a stash house. They bring in the drugs across the border and stash them in the Phoenix area to distribute them northbound. There we go. From that region. So it was a distribution point for them. So he talks about how the cartel hit the wrong house in the neighborhood, but he couldn't quite solve this lady's murder. And then when he finally got into it with the cartel stuff is when the feds kept shutting him down and threatened to arrest him. So that's what I'm saying. With these cases like this Kesey one where it remains so unsolved, it's likely the culprit's some sort of undocumented immigrant connected to a lot of other shit that if he was to get busted, then it would let all this other shit out, right? The same thing Cy Ray ran into. If they were to bust that homicide properly down there in Gilbert, then it would have let this whole bucket of other shit out down there out of the U.S. Attorney's Office and these cartel operations, whatever else is going on, right? Because they didn't want him to get involved because they're like, we're going for the big fish type of deal. But are they ever really going for the big fish? Or are these folks just dictating the drug trade within this country? You know what I mean? Which is what we see in Idaho, right? Which is what we see in Idaho when old Hurwit, Mark Zuckerberg lookalike Hurwit, he busts the Sinaloa leaders and the white nationalist leaders doing the drug trading in the region, right? Because it creates a power vacuum in which the feds can then dictate.
It does seem like a selective few that they take down, and then they have like what I would call a lot of times a token, like
Sure.
El Chapo and other things like that, and it always turns into a circus now.
Intentionally, I bet. Intentionally. So check this out. Are you familiar with the cult classic comedy film Mallrats?
Absolutely, yeah.
You know how the
Chocolate
characters,
pretzels, sure.
Of course. Scientologist Jason Lee keeps getting very butthurt about the kids back on the escalator. It's like throughout the film, he's like, the kids, he's like, that kid is back on the escalator again.
He's on the escalator again. Yeah, he's gonna fall. These parents suck.
Super butthurt, dude. Throughout various portions of the film, he keeps witnessing this kid on the escalator, and he's just not happy about it, right? He's upset with the parents. He's, obviously fearful for the kid's safety, and he's screaming about it everywhere. So, I feel the same way with the feds in the region of, especially within Pullman and Moscow in recent years. Like I said, there was it's not a Sinaloa guy. I'll look it up here in a minute. I forget which cartel it was. But there was another cartel fellow over there in Pullman. They just kept coming back to Pullman and dealing coke, and he just got busted again in 2023 for the third time. And I'm like, that cartel leader's back in Pullman selling coke again. I feel like fucking Jason Lee from Mallrats with that kid's back on the escalator again. So even when they bust him, dude, like they bust this dude distributing coke on Pullman, then they extradite him, and he's just back in Pullman.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, he's just back in Pullman doing his yayo business. They could just put him in federal prison. If you're a white dude, you're locked up for a decade plus on that charge, right? In Pullman on a federal charge of cocaine trafficking or yayo trafficking. I apologize, sir. But yet they don't do that to this. They don't do that to this cartel leader. They just keep shipping them back to Mexico, right? Under some pretense of like, yeah, we're the law around here. We're going to extradite him. And then the dude's back in like a couple weeks, distributing yayo again on Washington State.
Yeah, it's a that'll teach him scenario.
Well, it's the appearance of law and order, right?
Exactly. Yeah, like look what we did to him. We sent him back where he came from. to do exactly what he was doing before, you know.
And 2 weeks later, he's right back there again.
So yeah, it seems out of control. They can't stop him now.
Well, they can. That's what I'm saying. This is to me. This demonstrates what was going on in Iran Contra, what I assert is going on here in what I call Idaho Contra, and that is where they're dictating the feds are dictating the drug trafficking trade. And I'm not saying it's the feds collectively. It's a factional divide within probably multiple factions, not even just two, right? But within the federal structure. So much like how Iran Contra was run, so you can have whatever agency you want. You can have the ATF, the DEA, the FBI, anything in the DOJ or the DHS, like Secret Service, falls under DHS. U.S. Marshals would fall under Department of Justice. You can have all of these different organizations and factions under different law enforcement umbrellas of the federal government, including one of our 17 federal intelligence agencies, right? You can have all of these things, but people in these organizations and umbrella networks and compartmentalized divisions of the federal bureaucratic system, they operate individually upon selection through something called the National Security Council. That's what Oliver North was running out of the White House who reports to the National Security Advisor of the president and the president only. And, he takes three stamps to call things national security, and no one will ever know anything else about it, right? So these people within these organizations operate in those functions. That's what we saw in Iran Contra. We saw a U.S. Army colonel. This is where we put a pen in last time, by the way. We saw a U.S. Army colonel running hood rat shit operations out of the National Security Council in Iran Contra with Oliver North. And he was utilizing assets and resources within various agencies under this guise of stamping at national security, where even the people in the agencies that he was recruiting them to assist him, right, could not speak of it within their own agency. You see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I'm hip to what you're saying as far as there's so much Fed activity in that area, and we can conjecture from what Doug Wilson says himself. Don't feed the feds.
Yep.
They're everywhere over there in different capacities. Why are they the Department of Justice right on top of this mega church's zoning rights? It does seem odd to me.
Well, that's what I'm getting at with the compartmentalized nature of these operations. It's not just the feds. It's not like the feds aren't one overall, entity, right? And that's what I'm getting at. Even within these agencies, you have people operating under the guise of national security through a very small faction of people. They would have no, you know what I mean? So I was trying to build layers of what we're describing as this Fed activity. And then in regard to that Fed activity, in Christchurch, that is specifically, again, like, the concept's not lost on me. They call New St. Andrews, right? NSA.
Yep. Oh, NSA.
For example, former Scientologist, CIA operations chief Miles Copeland. You may be familiar with the surname Copeland. There's a rocker yourself there, Kane. Miles Copeland's sons basically brought us the New Age rock movement, right?
So Miles Copeland is American? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Stuart Copeland's American, right?
Yep. So, Stuart Copeland, sir, the drummer of the Police, right? The Police, right? I'm just demonstrating the name game going on here. When I say New St. Andrews is named that intentionally for the acronym NSA, or for the abbreviation there, right? So, the Police, right? You said Miles Copeland, Scientologist, CIA operations chief, or CIA dude from the OSS on for decades through the 70s, right? Big time CIA dude. His son, Stuart Copeland, is the drummer for the Police. His other son, Miles number 3, I think his name is. I think Miles Copeland's is junior. So Miles number 3, Stuart's brother. He starts a company.
What brother was that?
Give me a second, because he called
Mark
his
Goodman?
band. Hold on, sir.
Alan.
IRS record.
It's the blonde guy.
IRS record. Miles number 3. Okay, so Miles number 3 ran IRS records. He was the one who managed all these bands like REM, the B-52s, the Go-Go's, Fine Young Cannibals. What? Yeah. What a weird name. Fine Young Cannibals. You don't like Chucky the Muppet?
There you are. Yeah, I like Chucky the Muppet. It's hilarious.
That's based on Robert the Doll, right, Chucky?
Yeah, I've heard that, and so I'm very excited to see your thing. This plane crash here we're watching right now happened in San Diego, and they never say in the newscast where exactly it happened. And so I was kicking myself, like trying to think, because I used to live in Point Loma, and where we lived was more or less right at the end of the runway of Lindbergh Field. You know, it's a real short runway, and you have to come over the hills. So it's Point Loma where it happened, because I finally caught them saying, oh, this is a military area anyway. And so that's where all the top brass for the Navy and the Air Force are buried and live in retirement. Point Loma. So if anybody was interested, this is the plane crash that happened in San Diego. Another second terrible plane crash after the Old Town one. I've told the story before. It was a bad time in San Diego when I don't want to land in San Diego. Was it KLM or American Airlines crashed into Old Town, and apparently before the first responders arrived, people were picking the pockets of the unalived people on the side of the hill and stealing what they had. Can you believe that?
It's pretty wild stuff there, friend. Right in the middle
Yeah.
of a lot of planes falling out of skies these days, huh?
Well, a lot of planes being gifted too.
Almost seems
I
like
wonder-
subterfuge, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, the plane that Qatar gifted to Trump is going to cost like $1 billion to retrofit. I guess it's a 737, was it? And it's because Boeing was taking so long with the original one that they're like, well, we'll just take this one and retrofit it because you're taking too long. I got this flyer going around, it seems crazy to me the lack of competency in Boeing now. I wonder if there's disgruntled employees, if they've just made such cutbacks to make airline travel affordable, or
Sure.
what do you think it is? Why are planes falling out of the sky, bro?
I can help you out with all that, specifically with Boeing and everything else. It's called the CCP, and elements of our government, folks who run our government, selling us out, selling all of America out for many years, not just recent. It's just coming to light to things like China and CCP and whatnot. So we have less substantial economic infrastructure than they do, because they cook all of their numbers. And when Yayo Bob's buddy Henry Kissinger signed a trade agreement in '74 for Tricky Dick, he's the one who opened up all this nonsense. And if it wasn't for that, they would be living in huts in that nation still today. Most of them, which many of them still are, because again, it's the CCP that's in charge.
Like Moscow on the Hudson.
I mean, it's again, it goes back to what I was saying before with the politics in Moscow, right? For whatever reason, Moscow, Idaho, Pullman, Washington, there's very important to a lot of people, it seems, right? And again, back to the politics that Doug Wilson represents, and who his backing, it's going to be opposed to these kind of CCP globalist interests, right? And I was actually trying to track down a lot of what CCP money I could find into both organizations, and I did find some, but not of an aggressive amount, at least that I could point to and be like, well, that's suspect. But it is weird that the other students in Bryan's department, BK that is, Kohberger's, were Chinese. You know what I mean? Why? So there isn't there's obviously a seemingly disparate acceptance of ethnically Chinese students into that criminal justice program, from what I could see, versus not just white folk. I'm just saying American folk, right?
Well, wasn't his office mate, wasn't she Korean?
That I don't know. I was looking at the overall department. I saw at least one ethnically Chinese individual there when his precise associates, but the department as a whole, their criminal justice department, I was trying to find more financing from CCP stuff because I'm aware they finance through various NGOs and stuff like that. I've been following kind of this money trail. I did somewhat professionally for some clients of mine when I owned a private detective agency. Some clients that happen to be involved in the upper echelons of Republican politics, despite that's not how I initially got associated with some of those folks. Because again, I don't do politics, but if we're talking politics and funding, there is a lot of these. Wilson would be opposed to those kind of globalist interests where he's coming from, and I think there's something to be said about that regarding these areas we're describing, these towns that seemingly are in the middle of nowhere, but seem to play an important geographical or some sort of geo-social, political importance to folks, and have for many years. It's not new, so we're seeing it play out now as a result of this case, but. When I was talking about the name game with old Doug Wilson there, NSA, again, back to Copeland, right? So it was Miles Copeland Jr., CIA officer, OSS guy turned CIA, ranking CIA dude for many years, through the 70s, right? So 30 plus years, right? His son, Stuart, drummer for the police. His son, Ian, starts the FBI, Federal Booking International. So he's doing all the booking stuff. And then his other brother, Miles Copeland Jr., or Miles Copeland III, starts the IRS Records, and they're the record company for all these bands like REM, all the early MTV bands. And then I believe it was Miles was an early MTV VJ who was popularizing all these bands, right? I'm just saying with the name game, right? So you see the CIA Scientologist CIA dude, right? And his son start a band, the police, a booking company called the IRS, or FBI, and a management or record company called the IRS, right? And these are the people that brought us new age kind of rock music, right, from the 70s and late 70s and into the 80s, right? The Cure, the B-52s, the Police, Simple Minds, the Go-Go's, right? All of these bands were represented by the talent and booking agency FBI, right? REM, right? Again, you name it, right? And so, do you see what I'm talking about? How the epicenter of that operation, that is like Laurel Canyon, but that's a slightly different situation, years later, but the same framework as Laurel Canyon psyop music scene, right? With the hippie scene we were discussing before, but it also goes to the point where the name game, right? So why is the CIA dude's sons all starting, the police, the FBI, the IRS, right?
It sounds like it's blurring the lines, right?
For sure. I mean, it does do that, but it's also, I think they like to play these name games where, like, it's kind of an inside joke, right? Like, we're the FBI, we're the IRS, right? And our dad's the top dude, the CIA, right? And again, I'm sure they're being told to name these things in that regard, but why is Doug Wilson call his college New St. Andrews? Why is he called NSA? Who were his associations with? Again, his father seems to have naval intelligence associations back to Annapolis grad.
That would make sense. He does seem like a kind of L. Ron Hubbard type Sea Org kind of dude.
Oh, dude, you read my mind, Kane, doesn't he? Really? He does sound like he does in all appearances. He's got a lot of L. Ron Hubbardness going on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see, because that's a well organized religious faction there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see if it wasn't structured in exactly the same way as the Sea Org, with the whole flag thing.
It's funny you mention that. So L. Ron Hubbard, he starts Scientology. I can build a strong circumstantial argument that is a operation that began under the Office of Naval Intelligence and was later co-opted in a coup by David Miscavige, operating for the CIA. So it's currently under the control of the CIA, in my opinion, but it was initially started by O&I, who long dates the CIA. The O&I was started in 1776, essentially, when the Navy was formed out of Whitehall, New York. I don't think it was exactly, we'll call it circa 1776, but the birthplace of the Navy in Whitehall, New York. These early naval officers were part of that same secret society that started America, the George Washington Society, the Society of Cincinnati. So Office of Naval Intelligence goes back to the origins of this country. It predates any other military intelligence operation, right? So much of Washington's own intelligence apparatus, right, gets rolled up into what becomes the ONI following the war. And in fact, if folks are interested in some of those stories of George Washington's spy apparatus relative to the early onset of coups in this country, like the Aaron Burr coup, I've been doing a series on Operation GCD called Chasing Munir, and that specifically goes around the story surrounding the George Washington's spy network and some of the folks that were following Aaron Burr and his family preceding that coup, including one of the folks of the interwebs who subscribes to Operation GCD. His forefather was one of those spies, actually lived in the same county as my forefather, who's one of those spies in Rowan County, North Carolina in 1782. But nonetheless, those stories intersect. But what I'm saying is if folks are interested in hearing some of those spy network stories that ultimately this network, again, gets rolled up into the ONI. And then again, this is the original spy network of America. And, I just find it very interesting that when you see Wilson's father kind of having these L. Ron Hubbard things, because like I said, Hubbard definitely comes out of ONI, and seemingly that was an operation that started under ONI and then was later co-opted, and it was previously co-opted by the offshoot of the Process Church, right? So the Process Church is an offshoot of Scientology in 1964. And I would argue that was the MI6 CIA operation in which to kind of co-opt Scientology, and then about 15 years later was taken over completely in the coup that David Miscavige ran. So Miscavige was not identified by Hubbard and demonstrably not left the Church of Scientology to be the leader of it. He was 28 years old. He had known Hubbard because he was one of Hubbard's little messenger boys for many years, and Hubbard's protege for over a decade previous to that, or 15 years or so previous to that, starting when he was a young teenager. So, but Hubbard left it to somebody else. So Miscavige and his peer group, these other little messenger boys and whatnot, they ran a coup, and I would argue that coup was run backed by the CIA to take over from the ONI. So that's what I'm saying. When I look at Doug Wilson and his father's background, who started this whole Christchurch situation, right? Like, it's got a lot, and you pointed out it's got a lot of Hubbard qualities to it. And again, it seems to come from the same place.
Well, I mean, if not just to use the Church of Scientology as a model, whether because I find it a stretch.
No, there you go. That's it.
I find it a stretch.
It's not an offshoot of Scientology. No, go ahead.
I find it a stretch to believe that MI6 is involved in bringing it over because Britain was so adamant about keeping Scientology out. I mean, if that was just an act, if that's what you're saying, it was just for appearance's sake, that'd be one thing. But
It's absolutely for appearance's sake. It's absolutely for appearance's sake. And here's how I can demonstrate that. L. Ron Hubbard left America and lived in St. Hill Manor outside of London. That's where he found refuge, right, for many years, when he was wanted in America, right? This is when the process offshoots happens in '64. I assert he struck a deal at that time, right? And again, that's when they came into the fold, but they later completely took over with the Miscavige coup, right, years later. But what I'm saying there is Tom Cruise in recent years has been living in St. Hill Manor until he recently built that penthouse in Clearwater. His primary residence was the L. Ron Hubbard estate in St. Hill Manor, just outside of London. So there's certainly there's a lot of behind the scenes, I think, there that should be noted there, as opposed to their public appearance on statements. But I hear what you're saying there for sure. No, but you're spot on. I don't look at Christchurch as an offshoot of Scientology. I do look at it as a cookie cutter framework approach of the same playbook by O&I.
Another thing about the Church of Christ is I don't think that they have necessarily a lot of support in the Moscow area. I think there's more opposition to them, but this is the place that they've decided to call home, and they're like, fuck it, we're gonna take over. Right. We're gonna try to get into the government, and that when I talk about political stuff coming out of Laurel Canyon, it's slowly incremental pieces of the coup, and so when you talk about people that live in LA and Southern California, Northern California, that have residents in Idaho. So you have, that's where I think that this focused area of these, religions, three-letter agencies has gone, because that's where they would rather reside. I don't know what exactly draws so many opposing organizations, like the far right wing. You got Christchurch on the far right, and then you also have the Neos and these militant groups, and then on the other side you've got the Eastern Morning Stars and the Masons and the LDS Church, and it's
there
just
you go.
like,
I said, don't forget the Mormons. Don't forget the Mormons.
Dude, they literally are just right there. It's like the battle line is drawn at Coeur d'Alene or something.
I think it's right there in Moscow, Pullman. This is a very contentious area for some reason through these groups, and I think there's some power moves that have been going on. So let's look at the Mormons for a second, since you mentioned the LDS. So we have the LDS Church is currently being run by a Skull and Bones member. Most folks don't realize that. He may in fact be the crypt keeper. Somehow he's still alive. It's hard to believe. If you look at him, he should be dead. Like 107 or some shit. I don't know how old he is. He's old. He's 100. I think he's 100 years old or 101. While I'm talking shit, I'll just look it up. But so we have a state of Idaho. Well, again, so that area used to be known as Deseret. Let's do a little quick detour on the Mormons in history. So the Mormons get run out of America in 1842, after 1844, when Joseph Smith was murked at the Carthage prison in Carthage, Illinois. And again, this is back to that secret society that started America. The Mormons are an offshoot of that, the Society of Cincinnati. So that's comprised of hereditary members, paternal descendants of the original members of Washington's army that started America, right? The officers of Washington's army. So Joseph Smith's grandfather, Smith, Ashael Smith, A-S-H-A-E-L, Ashael Smith, was a captain in the Massachusetts chapter of the Society of the Cincinnati. So likely that got passed down to his father, Joseph Sr., and then on to Joseph Jr., right? And Joseph Sr. was a member. He was one of the 12, quote unquote, 12 apostles of his son there, and so was his brothers there in the early onset of Mormonism there. Nonetheless, they founded the Mormon Church on a mound in Fayette, New York, named after General Lafayette, the head of the French chapter of the Society of the Cincinnati. So each colony had 13 chapters, and the French had a chapter, because the French and American revolutions were the same, and it was all around this one organization, the Society of the Cincinnati. So that being said, they started on a town and a mound. The society's big into mounds. They're the ones who mapped all the mounds. So that's all started through there. And much of the upper echelon of Mormonism is all these other quote unquote blue blood, right? Blue blood families from New England, right? That are also descendants from the same organization, the Society of Cincinnati.
I think they literally had bylaws to keep out people of color from the LDS Church until recently, right?
Yeah, until 78. That's correct, sir. You could not hold the priesthood until 78. You could join, you couldn't hold the priesthood. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think you asked me before if there's any what was the society was not very ethnically diverse, and I was like, yeah, that's probably a good point. It's mostly white dudes. But I did find a couple of African American black fellas there that wherever you want to go. But whatever your preferred nomenclature is there. I found a Swedish fella, which I guess that's technically just uber white, if you will. But I found couple I found some other folks of mixed heritage, but it is interesting. It is a predominantly white organization, again an offshoot of the Society of Cincinnati is the Mormonisms. It formed in the wake of an anti-Masonic movement in New York, which was the first official third party of politics in America, the Anti-Masonic Party, which turns out was being run by the Society of Cincinnati, and who were also, some of the members were also Freemasons. So that all erupted over a fellow by the name of Captain Daniel Morgan, who was murdered for printing the first few, secrets of, first few, whatever you call it, merit badges of Freemasonry. And Captain Daniel Morgan obviously an officer in the Revolution, a member of the Society of Cincinnati. So, what I'm getting at is, when you look at the white nationalist kind of attitude of Doug Wilson, he kind of goes in line with the Mormons who are running that place and their white national attitudes, and that kind of goes in line with the kind of most, again, an organization that from the folks who started this country who are still in large part not very seemingly old white dudes. Right?
Well, it seems like a green flash will cause color blindness.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But if you want to look at the Mormon dynamic there, so we look at the origin story of the Mormons. They go, from that onset on a mound in New York through various mounds in Ohio and Kirtland, Independence, Missouri, finally Nauvoo, Illinois. Then for some reason they do now apparently non-mound stuff and set up in what is now Salt Lake City, Utah. But at the time, in 1852, when they set up shop there, they called it Deseret, which is the name of their nation. So in 1854, circa, they donated a stone to what would be formed as the Washington Monument. So each state donated a block that would go in the tower, or the giant obelisk, aka giant phallic. I don't know, I can say dick on here. Giant phallic. Structure in Washington, D.C., known as the Washington Monument. Please note, Washington never asked to be painted as a god inside Congress. Washington never asked for a giant phallic statue of himself in his own city. And Washington never asked for the giant ziggurat Freemasonic Lodge in his name in Alexandria, Virginia. I digress. The point being there is that, when the Mormons sent that block that would comprise the Washington Monument, it doesn't say Utah, it says Deseret. So Idaho used to sit, and you can look it online. I think it's, like I said, each state that says Deseret, right? It doesn't say Utah. So this is 1850s. They didn't become Utah until they joined the Union, I believe, in 1894. And then they dropped polygamy and made an agreement with the federal government. Nonetheless, the Union would have never won the Civil War if it wasn't for the Mormons in the state of California, which they founded. Because they sided with the Union, which then swung the war back in their favor. So the Mormons do some good things upon occasion. So, but Idaho used to be Deseret, and now, strangely enough, it wasn't really run by Mormons from an executive level, right? Obviously in the legislature, whatnot, local level. But the current governor, I think, is the first Mormon governor elected. So, not the first Mormon governor, the first one was elected. I think the previous ones were not elected. Folks stepping down. One guy took a senator job, and the lieutenant governor became the governor. So I think he's the first elected one. So you have to consider that's a weird power structure. Then you have the attorney general, who's prosecuting this case in large part, with his lackeys there that are poking Bill Thompson when he gets out of order, and who now just got superseded by Mark Zuckerberg lookalike Hurwit. Well, those folks from the attorney general's office, they work for a Mormon, right? He's a Mormon. And then you look at the Gooch. When I was talking about the blue blood families that comprise the Society of Cincinnati, I don't know the Gooch. I have to look at the Gooch representation there, but they're a blue blood family from, the Mayflower, right? Who became a pioneering Mormon family, and Victoria Gooch is married to one of these. That's her husband's family. And you look at them, and again, Dylan Mortenson's paternal heritage goes back with the Gooches on the pioneer Mormon trains. Her Mortenson family, and they're long time. Every man in her family since then has served a mission, including her father. Her paternal grandfather was a chief legal counsel for the IRS.
Now, we've heard all this information from the beginning. So somebody had it that was able to release it either on social media or through the press, and so they're making this big hoopla that it's out there when they knew all along that it was out there. And I wonder if, for whatever reason, now somebody finally paid the right amount, and they were able to get the story. Would that make sense? If the reason that it's finally leaked in full is because there was some payola involved, right?
I mean, that's a good suggestion. I want to take a quick commercial break here and remind folks this edition of The Purge is brought to you by Chocolate Paydays and some Diet Mountain Dews.
That's some fine stuff, Mountain Dew. I had a delivery the other day, and unfortunately they were out of the Sierra Mountain Mist, Mountain Dew, or whatever. And so I text the guy, sorry, they only have regular dew. And you're fine. It's still dew, you know.
How dare you?
The payday break.
Nothing but diet dew.
It's coming out of your Hula Burger check, though. I'll tell you that. Let me see here. I wanted to take a.
You're asking some good questions about money, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Mormons we were just talking about, right? So we have this interesting dynamic where you would see this. So as you point out, that the Mormons they lifted their white nationalism, at least on its face, by letting folks who weren't white get the priesthood in '78. To be honest with you, though, there was in my ward growing up, at least the one I was at in Ohio when I was like 10 or so. There was we had one black family in the whole ward, and the family, the wife and the children, all sat in the pews with like normal folks in the ward, and everyone, they were nice folks. I mean, they were treated nicely. There wasn't anything like that. Not that I saw. Like, even this is 10 years post, 9 years post, or no, I guess 11 years post lifting of the ban from, from that priesthood ban in '78 or so. So, but the father of that family, he just, he stood in the back still. So apparently, prior to '78, I don't know if they were allowed to sit down in the pews, because this dude just was standing in the back 11 years later. So I don't know how that went down, but he never sat down, dude. It creeped me out as a kid. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Can someone give this man a chair? What is going on here?
Well, if you want my opinion, when you talk about '78 and when things drastically change within the Mormon Church as far as policy, polygamy, and it was as a result of some kind of federal plea deal or whatever, right? And then you also have more acceptance throughout the rest of society of Mormons, whereas before they were the polygamists and you could put all these labels on them. Now they're this good entity, and they are very very electable officials, and they're starting to take positions and get strongholds in areas everywhere, and people will vote for them just because they're Mormon. And so you have in Latah County, you have a Mormon representative that's 3 or 4 or 5 terms deep right now, and so when you say that they hold a lot of power, that's an understatement.
Well, yeah, but like I was saying, no, you're right there. But like I'm saying before, let's unpack what I was saying. This is the first elected Mormon governor. We have a Mormon attorney general prosecuting the case, and these people would be more ideologically, sided with Doug Wilson in theory, right? In theory, right? They would be, as far as politics go, right? And kind of their white nationalist backgrounds and belief systems. It seems, right? That's all I was trying to get that. We continue to have this weird dynamic between weird, seemingly spook operations, these religious organizations, right? That wield political power, right? But whether it be Doug Wilson, who doesn't have anything close to the Mormons, but it seems right on his face, obviously, but still interesting. And then we have old school, seemingly powerful Mormon families still involved in the case, directly in the case, right? Eyewitness, lead detective, right? The Gooch. Her husband, that is.
Are you saying Payne is also a Mormon?
No, I haven't found anyone else being a Mormon besides Gooch's husband, and I can't even confirm that Gooch herself is a Mormon. Although, again, her husband and his whole paternal line are, they pioneered across America with the Mortensons, right? Both Grub Truck Mortenson's forefather and Dylan Mortenson forefather. They were all in Nebraska together circa 1854 on pioneer wagon trains to Deseret, to Utah. What I'm saying, though, when I was going on the backstory, so you go to the backstory, who really owns this area in our modern era, and that's the Mormons, right? Idaho, despite this being kind of the first outwardly kind of elected official there in the executive level. Oh, you're doing a lot of cloning to me, Kane. I'm almost out of here, dude. You clone me one more time, I'm out of here, bud.
I'm not
one
moving.
More clone.
I'm not.
One more
I
clone,
promised
Kane. I'm
Heather
out of
Fitzgerald I would clone you.
I appreciate you entertaining the long backstory. I appreciate you entertaining a long backstory, and hope folks have enjoyed the history lesson. But what I'm getting at is, I think what we're seeing is things come to the surface, right? So the Mormons have obviously wielded an insurmountable amount of power in this region since day one, when it was Deseret, and then now, and then and now we're seeing them, overtly running things, right? They're running the governorship, they're running the Attorney General's office. Right,
and they're very good they're very adept at covering shit up, and they have the power to do it, Yeah,
so where they stand in all this, who knows, right? Because again, you have so much of this. Again, I don't think it should be lost that Dylan Mortensen's paternal grandfather was such a integral party within financial aspects, especially within the IRS, out of Salt Lake City. And folks don't realize the IRS may be headquartered out of D.C., but most of their operations are in Utah.
So you want to hear a viewpoint?
Yeah, and I'm just saying, and he was the chief legal counsel, right? So if we're looking at all this, and I'm saying that in respect to all of this Idaho Contra money laundering in regards to these things, the chief legal counsel for what is essentially the operations center of the IRS is an old school Mormon dude who his granddaughter is the chief eyewitness in this case.
Wait, say that slowly for the people in the back. Start from the beginning there.
So what I'm getting at regarding to that is Dylan grandfather Mortensen, right, her father's father, who served a mission, who was high up in the Mormon operations there in Salt Lake City, was also the chief legal counsel for the IRS in Utah. Utah serves as the operations center for the Internal Revenue Service. So essentially, what we have here is the chief legal counsel for the operations center of the IRS, who's high up in the Mormon church, who's from a pioneering Mormon family where all of his forefathers served missions dating back to 1852, right? When the dude joined, I believe it was disregard 1851, I believe, or 1852. This dude's granddaughter is the chief eyewitness in this case. And again, we're looking at things of money laundering. This is the chief legal counsel for the operations center of the IRS. His granddaughter is the high up Mormon stuff, is the chief eyewitness, Dylan Mortensen.
That's something to think about right there. Check this one out, JJ. As soon as we get past the commercial, probably, yeah. Sorry.
Introducing Gemini in Google Slides.
These commercials are bad today. Almost there. And Zuckerberg.
I'm watching Zuckerberg.
Welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Joe Paris. As administrations at the federal level,
we haven't really talked too much about the actual new details here, Kane. What are your thoughts on some of these new details? We're getting lost in parapolitics around the situation.
This is our boy Zuckerberg here. Check this out.
Track and watching.
Last month, U.S. Attorney for Idaho, Josh Hurwit, concluded his service as the top federal law enforcement official for the state of Idaho. Hurwit thanked President Biden for nominating him and Senators Jim Risch and Mike Crapo for their support during the nomination and confirmation process. A public servant with wide bipartisan support, confirmed as U.S. Attorney in 2022, Hurwit previously served as Assistant U.S. Attorney in Idaho, first in the Civil Division and then the Criminal Division, dating back to 2012. And my guest this week on Viewpoint is Josh Hurwit. Josh, thanks for joining us here on the program. I guess for starters, what are you up to these days now that you've concluded your work?
Well, Joe, thanks for having me. And
just for reference, JJ, this is the same program that had Scott Green on it, talk with all the scientists from the Idaho State, and they were talking about the Hadron Collider. If you remember,
he also did an appearance on that same program with a fellow presidents of universities in Idaho, and those folks seem like tardballs. I would be ashamed if my son went to one of their universities in that state when they're illiterate presidents can't even have a conversation. They made Scott Green look brilliant, and that's hard to do.
I am trying to take it easy for a little bit, figure out my next steps. I'm going to continue to live and reside in Boise and hopefully find a job that's as fulfilling or approaches the positions I was able to have at the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And as we highlighted, going back to 2012, you worked in that office, coming from private practice. What kind of motivated you to want to jump into that public sphere?
Yeah, the ability to
He already looks like a
represent our
Muppet. I don't even have to
country,
Muppetize this
in
guy.
court on behalf of my fellow citizens was always something I was really passionate about and interested in doing since my days in law school. And to be able to do it in Idaho and in Boise and around the state has been just a dream.
And are you from Oregon originally, or?
That's correct. I'm from Oregon originally, and always had Idaho on the radar. And when I got to know Boise and the whole state, it was just a wonderful place for me to be able to settle in.
And for your academic career, Stanford and then Harvard.
That's right.
What was it like going to the East Coast, going through the legal community, being out east, and then coming back home here to the West? Yeah, I learned a lot. I also learned that I wanted to be in the West at the end of the day. So maybe that tells you a little bit about what I thought. But the ability to have the education I had, I'm so grateful for that. But I'm also grateful just for the ability to come back to, place closer to my roots and work with people who grew up here, who went to the schools here, and are as passionate as I am about protecting our communities. As you concluded your service on Valentine's Day,
yes.
How often do you find yourself, looking back, even back to 2012 when you started as an assistant U.S. attorney? Is that something that you're even in the mind frame of doing yet?
Well, it's been a while since I've had a break from employment. So right now I am trying to, as I think about my next steps, take stock of where I've been, and I just feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude for all of my colleagues at the U.S. Attorney's Office, the U.S. attorneys that I worked for before I became U.S. Attorney. Wendy Olson was the U.S. Attorney that hired me. I worked under Bart Davis during the first Trump administration. Both of these leaders and all the other leaders in our office are really focused on teamwork, focused on doing the right thing. And it's really, I would say, liberating as a lawyer to get up every day and come to your workplace and just think, what can I do to make a difference?
Wendy Olson, she's
what is the right decision to be made in this particular case with respect to this particular issue or this particular defendant even? And that's sort of the ethos of the office is do the right thing for the right reasons. It sounds, I don't know, maybe a little trite, but it's actually how we do the work in the office.
What was it like, thinking back to 2021, 2022, of getting the nomination and going through the confirmation process?
Yeah. It was a bit of a whirlwind. A lot of it's out of your control. I was fortunate enough, obviously, to be nominated. As you mentioned, I had bipartisan support, but there was a lot of waiting involved. There's thousands of positions that each administration has to nominate and appoint and fill. The U.S. Attorney in Idaho, probably not a big surprise, isn't the very top of the list. So, I was patient, hopefully, and the beauty of it was I was still an assistant United States Attorney. I was able to do the work of the office on a day-to-day basis, and when my time came, it was a privilege to be able to try to lead the office.
When you finally got the confirmation and you knew the job was yours, was it, a quick transition from being an assistant to being the guy there?
Correct. Yeah, it was, instantaneous once the paperwork was signed, and I had to transition from, my day-to-day casework to addressing my colleagues. I sort of remember that first day. It was, I wasn't a natural at leading the office yet. I'm not sure I ever became one, but it was very quick, and it was time to focus on the role as the U.S. Attorney, which is different than being an assistant.
And for 10 years you were an assistant. I would imagine transitioning into that role. Was it, easy or difficult to kind of set up what your priorities were going to be?
Yeah, I would say I had a lot of advantages in making the transition because I knew the job. I knew my coworkers, my colleagues. I knew what we had been doing really, really well over the last 10 years. And I had some ideas for what I kind of wanted to change and lead out in a new direction. And so I think being in the office was a huge advantage for me.
And when you finally became U.S. Attorney, what was kind of like your primary focus? What were areas that you were excited to hop into?
Yeah, a lot of different areas, but I would say my primary focus was to empower my colleagues to
He's
do
fit
the
enough to
work
be
and do the work that they wanted to do in the most meaningful
Looks
way
a little
for our
femmed, doesn't he?
communities. So that's a pretty large,
it's funny
priority,
because
I suppose.
he's kind of that
But I wanted to make sure that as U.S.
bootlicker
Attorney,
that
I was using the
took charge in
resources
the small
of
town.
the Department of Justice to support
Came
the specific
in with
needs
all his
of
big
Idaho.
fancy words. And
Yeah, he came in with his Harvard degree and his Eric Holder backing.
Are you coming back to your post? We'll get you
You
on the
talking to me?
screen here. What is this one? We do self.
You haven't seen that one?
Yeah, I saw them all. I was trying to put them all in. I couldn't fit them all in the reel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's that Garret Discovery guy. We do cell phone forensics.
Oh, the Garret. Okay, so it was hilarious the other day. I was watching the Drunk Turkey show, as usual there, and where'd you go? The moment, and I showed it the other day, the moment that Garret said, yeah, we can't determine distance from the cell phone tower data. It's like the blood just ran out of his face. And JJ, I don't know what do you think about it, but as far as you coinciding with this horrendous leak, this injustice that's been done in this leak, is when he came to town. So it's like one of his signature moves, I would guess, is that he is he's like, all right, this is what we're gonna do first. There's the next move, and the move after that. And
yes, sir. I believe the first time we spoke of Josh Hurwit on the Purge here, you and I said he's a bagman from Eric Holder's law firm in Washington, D.C. Eric Holder being Obama's attorney general, who I believe is still under felony charges from Congress, despite them never not charging him. He was indicted, for contempt. Hurwit comes from that firm, where that's where Holder keeps. He goes in and out of government since the early '90s, running that firm and working his way up to the top of that firm, and then running government stuff, operations. So he's back and forth there. It's basically a bagman operation, and this is where that dude comes from. And he was there for a number of years before he joined the U.S. Attorney's office out there as a deputy in Idaho. So again, he comes to me, in my opinion, of a bagman quality. And you kind of referenced him as a Winston the Wolf guy, so that's kind of what we're seeing play out here, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's making a to-do about nothing. Literally taking completely irrelevant shit and making somebody look guilty. And that's one thing that you see over and over and over in these chats where they attack Twiz and stuff like this, is they'll say, look at his eyes. And I'm just like, don't you know he has Asperger's? That is why his eyes are like that. It has nothing to do, that it does not prove a thing. And then they're like, oh, and then there's all the evidence. Like in that one video I played where they say, oh, well, they got the stuff out of his apartment and in his office. What did they get? They got a pizza cutter and a microwave with a brown stain.
Dude, busted, Kane. That's murder. That's charges of murder, dude. You're getting the death penalty for having that.
Yeah, it's and so then when you drop the car footage, and you say it's irrevocably him. That's his car speeding away from the scene at 4:20. Well, then they're trying to include something from the gas station that's 3:45 speeding away from the scene. Which one is it? None of their evidence coincides.
All of the above.
And so
it's all conflicting, isn't it?
If you want to hear my overall take on the thing, if that's what you're asking for, what they're trying to do is, out of desperation, just throw it all out there, and I think it's just completely backfired, like somebody stuck their finger in the cannon, and they're freaking out, and they can't, for some reason they can't understand why people just don't declare him guilty and why he doesn't just lay down and take his punishment. Well, he's declared himself innocent. They're like, oh, he has no alibi.
Yeah, but that speaks to the magic show. I mean, folks have been conditioned to say those and feel that way. And it's not necessarily their fault, dude. That's what I'm saying. It's a magic show, dude. This propaganda campaign, it's well orchestrated. Folks know, the folks who are doing it know how to pull the strings, get the attention, and dictate the way they want to dictate. So that's part of the magic show.
Yeah, it's a giant attention grab. It's don't look over here, and look at this. Look at this. Oh my gosh, he took a selfie. Like, how are you gonna?
And no one's asking what photo Bethany and Dylan took earlier that morning than Bryan's selfie.
That they edited, that they deleted, that were on Snapchat,
right.
That she sent to her father at 7:30 in the freaking morning, and they're also not talking about the sheriff's car driving by Willinda at 112 or Taylor Avenue at 1122 at 7:30 a.m. speeding towards the scene. And then,
yes, sir. And this is why I say you're a wise man, Kane. You understand the magic show, the distractions, and some of the more pertinent elements of this case, which is, again, like you pointed out, the sheriff, right? This is the sheriff's department. They've made no public statements in regards to the most heinous crime in state's history that occurred within their jurisdiction. Now, Moscow can pull rank because it's technically their corporate limits, but it's still within the confines of Latol County and the jurisdiction of the sheriff.
Yeah, it seemed like in the beginning press conferences that the sheriff wanted to take a role, and they did have a role as far as forensic goes, for sure.
Did? What role did they have there?
The Idaho State Crime Lab was in the Latah County Sheriff's handled that.
Oh, I didn't know they had sheriffs, the crime lab on scene.
Well, they handled the forensic data, yeah.
No, I was unaware of that because I was, I've long wondered why has the sheriff made no statements and taken no efforts in these matters. Completely.
Well, yeah, you would think with an election coming up that he would have taken the lead, especially,
Right, and yet somehow he still won 70-30 over James Fry.
Well, I mean, people really feel like Fry dropped the ball, but they
or do people locally know the sheriff knows something that everyone locally knows, and they're backing him because he's supporting their interests, and and again, not saying anything to anybody. We don't know what those things are necessarily, but I'm just saying, like, it speaks to that Twin Peaks nature of this town.
So check this out, JJ. These are the new documents here.
Sure. Can I make one more point on the sheriff?
Oh yeah, I know. Go please.
Did you know he ran unopposed, like many people do, like Kathy Mabutt does in that county, runs unopposed in elections?
Also, Bill Thompson ran unopposed.
Bill Thompson, dude, I was thinking about running for corner there. I think I can do it.
You don't need to be a medical examiner or even a doctor.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I can do that.
If you can sign a check, then you should be good. So these are the documents that were released, I guess, in the yesterday or whatever. And so I thought of some of them were just pretty wild. So the first one that came out is Notice of Compliance, and this was the longest one, and it's not that long at all. This is from Bill Thompson, and basically under redacted sealed order governing further criminal proceedings and notice of trial setting. The parties met on May 8th to determine objections to exhibits. State inquired regarding the references of several defense exhibits and was unable to retain a response from the defense. So here, what exhibits do you think Ann Taylor has that they're not giving answers about?
I mean, it's the same shit, right? They want to know. They want to know what all the shit she's got. Just like they want to know Bryan's alibi. Just they want to know what all of the evidence she's developed in regards to these alternate suspects. And this is what I told you at the beginning, and I shared with all fellow purgers here. All the folks here at the Purge, the fine folks here at the Purge, Kane. I definitely enjoy my time here with y'all folks.
We love
this is
having
what
you,
I
man.
said
Thanks
then.
for being here. Appreciate it.
Oh, as always, I won't do this anywhere else, Kane. I only discuss Idaho on my show and here at the Purge.
Well, I'll allow you on Annie Potts if you want to go to Annie Potts.
Well, I suggested she come on here, but we can do that too.
Yeah, she was working still. I was hoping to get a little snark out of her today. If I haven't seen her in the chat in a minute, I wanted to start a little later so that she had time to get settled in and come up on tonight's show. But that is what it is. But
well, if we need to do an addendum later, I'm done with my show about 11 p.m. But
I might be down for that actually. That sounds like a good idea because I'm gonna probably sign off here after these documents. I feel like we've done some pretty good coverage today, and then maybe we can pick it up and do a late night show. I'd be down for that if you are. Do a couple hours tonight.
I'll absolutely join you after my show for sure.
Yeah, well, Annie doesn't stay up too late usually. Annie, can you make it later tonight? Would you be willing to join us? Yeah.
We can always talk some food stuff. But no, so they're clearly just trying to game everything, right? So this is no different than the alibi with all the alternate suspect stuff. But as I shared, with the Purge here many purges ago, it's going to be a very big uphill battle to introduce anything in regards to an alternate suspect, because ultimately speaking, Mr. Hippler there, Judge Hippler, has a very wide ranging amount of subjective power in that decision-making process, and he's already kind of exhibited that. So he told the defense in the hearing that
he likes to put the kibosh on anything that seems to come through.
Memorandum,
right?
And he says his words, it seems objectionable in regards to the rules regarding.
Says, "Fuck me." Are you back?
Am I here?
Yeah. Hey, come back on camera for the last little bit if you don't mind.
I was just rolling. I was rolling to JB. I know you do. I was rolling to JB.
Pretty face.
Do you remember that statement? Do you remember that statement by Hippler though? He says he mentions it says what you submit in this memorandum, you got to submit the evidence. And he says, and on top of that, what you submitted seems objectionable in regards to the rules of rules and whatever rule he cited in regards to submitting alternative suspects.
Yeah, he's got a problem with it, and that'd be a good name for him, Judge Kibosh. He just shuts down anything else that comes through. And why wouldn't you want to give the jury a chance to look at that? And why wouldn't you want investigators to investigate it more, where they seem to have just gone completely hands off?
No one cares about anything she's developed, I assure you. Nobody on the state fucking cares. The least of which is Hippler, who's already, again, I would say he's already kind of, played his hand, if you will, right? Like, I'm not going to say that I know that for a fact. I'm just saying, based upon the statements he made, it seems to me that, like, he's already played his hand. So, like, it's like you play sports, right? Basketball, football. What's your sport there, King?
Soccer, football, basketball, baseball.
Soccer's a good one. Same
Surfing.
Difference, right? I was big soccer and basketball myself, and I was real adept at stealing the ball from the other team because I could see the pattern of behaviors and actions that they would flag their next action and move, and that's the same thing I see with Hippler when he makes a statement saying, what you've submitted here seems objectionable in regards to the rules of submitting blah, 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 blah. He's already saying, the jury can figure this out for themselves. You can go fuck yourself, defense. We're not going to entertain your alternative suspects.
I think that has become your, what you talking about, Willis? What you talking about, Mr.
You see what I'm saying there when he makes that statement? Like, he's not interested in these things, right? He's go fuck yourself.
So this one is Exhibit F. And for some reason, Exhibit F has a motion to seal. And it's in response to the defendant's 6th supplemental response to discovery. So that means that there's like at least, 16 supplemental requests for discovery between when they finally decide to seal this evidence and when they first asked for it. So they're not only asking for it, are they basically telling the defense to go fuck yourself? Because at this point, they're just not going to release it.
That's 100% what they're saying. They've all adapted the Hitler code of conduct here. Go fuck yourselves, defense. Because if you look at what's going on here, this is going on. You have to compare it to what else is going on, and it makes no sense. Schizo in, schizo out. So we have this stuff popping off. When a couple weeks ago, Hitler had his, was jamming up the defense by saying, "Look, you need more time. You haven't gone through all the discovery. We have 2 bakers." She should have said, "Hey, dumbass, we have 2 bakers' dozens requests for discovery, and how about you go fuck yourself, Hitler?"
That's what I feel, and Jules of all trades feels like she's a little timid of a mouse. But then again, you can't.
You can't. She can only do so much.
Right.
And I think look what she's done now. She just blew up the whole case. When I say blew up the whole case, the prosecution is now scrambling to figure out what to do next based upon the events of these filings to even continue this stuff and the arguments made. And she's putting a lot of people in weird corners to make weird decisions that are contrary to case law if they decide not to grant these motions.
Yeah, I think within the next week or few days, we'll start to see really people starting to stab each other in the back, and because they don't want the jiggy on them.
Well, say, no, that's spot on. So and what we have right now is 2 opposing forces on the state, right? So they're opposing the defense. We see that publicly in these filings and whatnot. They're obviously being pressured from unseen forces behind the scenes,
yes,
right? Which is why we see Hurwit. He got fired by Trump, right? So we have the new Trump administration of U.S. attorneys and FBI directors and et cetera, and U.S. Marshals. He cleaned house in all these executive levels of these organizations. So we see that pressure going on because Hurwit, he's like, "Oh, I quit," but really he was fired. And again, if folks don't take note of this, it's one of the most highly unorthodox moves I've ever seen. A U.S. attorney then taking, especially a young U.S. attorney on the rise, a meteoric rise, he then takes, he and I are the same age, I believe, and I'm just saying, most U.S. attorneys are much older, than that, and he forgoes this trajectory, and he's now going to go work this case for the state, which is not helping him politically or by any means professionally.
No, it's going to end up being a big L for him, and he's it goes back to the tattoo on the face. He's given up, and here he's plopped himself in probably the most undesirable position that I could think of a human could be in, right between Shushley and I mean, he should have just left Nye there to fry, literally.
Much like everybody else here, though, Kane, I don't think he wants to be there, right? Hitler doesn't want to be there. Nye doesn't want to be there. Thompson definitely doesn't want to be there. Sometimes he doesn't even show up mentally or physically.
Right.
Et cetera. So what we're talking about here is an unseen force that we can demonstrate is going on through these sort of activities and exhibited by these actions of Hurwit, et cetera. But really, what's causing it, right? What is this force, right? Then you look at other matters such as I had another point there, but you see what I'm saying. We're talking about this. So this unseen force that's clearly a political pressure, probably, right? That's seemingly pushing down on things. And
the thing is you and I will say this goes right to the top, and then people are like, oh yeah, Scott Green and da da da. Scott Green is just a pawn once again. He might be a bishop or a rook, but he is definitely a piece on the puzzle. He's not the guy moving the pieces. And so when you start talking about 3-letter alphabet organizations in the area and political forces coming into play, there's got to be, I would say a senator or a DA that's really pulling the strings. What would you?
I hear what you're saying. You're thinking of things logically and reasonably. I would look more towards, again, the Oliver North model of a small team of effort running out of the White House into the National Security Council, a National Security Council that Trump fired on day one.
Yeah, the clingers on, the San Francisco stronghold, more or less, right? That they still have over there on Prime Rib Row.
Well, you can cut the head off a snake or a chicken for that matter, because these people are more chickens. That chicken's going to run around for a while. So what I'm saying is Trump cut the head off of whatever chicken's popping off behind the scenes here, and it's currently bleeding out in the form of Josh Hurwit volunteering to be the head of this prosecution. But we can also look at it like this. So this is also courtesy of the Princess of Darkness, Lucy Morningstar, and her work there in the underworld. She brought to my attention that Pete Hegseth, U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and Fox News host turned Secretary of Defense, is a member of the umbrella network of churches of the Christ Church. Doug Wilson.
Let that one marinate for a minute.
Yeah.
So here's another anomaly. Thinking
do you remember what I was saying a moment ago, though?
Hold on, wait.
Can I just add a little flavor
before I forget?
All right, you add some flavor. I'll add some flavors. We'll both have some flavors.
If you still have your thought, hang on just one moment. If you have such a right-wing existence in this town, in Latah County, in Idaho, then bringing in Horowitz or whatever his name is should be shocking to it, should be alarming to them, and they should be seemingly opposed to it. Yet no, it doesn't. Of course, it doesn't make the news or anything like that. Even in the local news, they don't mention. They mention that he came in and that he's going to bring his fancy spur boots. But they don't say exactly, yeah, he's a lefty, dude. This is basically a communist.
They're not going to exactly. No, you're spot on. They're not going to provide you that context, are they?
Right. It's just, and so now he's literally just said he's like an incoming CEO, like who was the guy who took up a Guitar Center. The Republican, Mitch Romney.
Oh, Schindler's List.
A CEO where, okay, this is a completely effed organization. We're just gonna throw all the meat at the deli. You know what I mean? And
don't do that. That's good meat, Kane.
Sticks.
That's fine meat. We don't have to throw the meat out.
Well, I think a lot of it is haggis. It's running down the wall.
Well, I am Scottish, so I mean, what are we talking about here?
SATURDAY night. Oh man, I wish we could play that scene every time we talk about that movie, where his boss yells at him. He's like, "Was I okay? Was I good?"
I don't think I'm not holding you to it. We're gonna do a kind of an esoteric review of the film. So I Married an Axe Murderer.
I would love to be on that panel. I didn't get to catch all the Back to the Future stuff. I was working for most of it, but I got there at the tail end with Cosmic Peach.
Good news for you. Every last Wednesday of every month is going to be Operation GCD, Occult and Esoteric Film Review. Operation GCD awesome. Live. So
I love the movies.
I don't know if it'll be next month. It might be July. We do So I Married an Axe Murderer, but I didn't forget about that. That's for sure.
Yeah, it would be a great
one
movie.
of my favorite films.
All right, guys, I'm gonna get ready for work. 6:30 right now. I'm gonna start strapping on the boots.
Let me offer you before you bootstrap. Let me offer you these two closing points here to wrap up our conversations here today. I appreciate your time, Kane, as always. Appreciate the invite,
yes,
sir. Folks of the Purge, I always enjoy purging with you. The lot of details, a lot of topics tonight. Today, maybe even more tonight. It sounds like, but so as far as considering Pete Hegseth's membership in the. I always want to call it Church of Christ, but it's Christ Church. The Mormons started out as the Church of Christ, but Doug Wilson's is Christ Church. So Pete like I was saying, we discussed the L. Ron Hubbard-esque nature of Doug Wilson. I'd like to comment that the Lucy Morningstar, purports or asserts that Doug Wilson isn't innocent. I'm not saying he's not innocent. She just keeps repeating that for some reason. But we consider the L. Ron Hubbard-esque nature of Doug Wilson and this kind of O&I kind of aspect to it, like L. Ron Hubbard even. And now we got the current Secretary of Defense as a member of this organization. Well, that's fascinating. And, you consider that. And when last point, the sheriff's department. So the sheriff's department, the process church, as I was discussing before, and all these other shenanigans. Not the good shenanigans. So back in 1999, a fellow by the name of Fred Palahniuk was murdered in Latah County. A man sits today on death row for that. The man who the state left to make the decision on whether or not the individual convicted of the crimes, seemingly the culprit, although I haven't looked at any of the evidence of the case yet. But the man who the state said, should we do the death penalty or not the death penalty for this guy, was the victim's son, Fred Palahniuk's son, Chuck Palahniuk, who is, by my estimations, a member of the neo-process movement out of Portland, Oregon. He's also the author of the book Fight Club, where you can see a lot of the processing theology, including the use of the smiley face as a chaos symbol.
Yeah, there was that. No kidding.
Yep. So his father was murdered in Latah County in 1999, the same year his book was adapted into a film. And again, the guy's gotten an appeal by representing himself, I think, in recent years. So I got to look more into the case. I just find it interesting. The folks who investigated that is they're still on board, right? Some of those guys are still on board. Yeah. So apparently the lead detective on that case for the sheriff's department is now the chief deputy.
Listen, JJ, the pressure from the top is not going to stop, and we've seen that, and they'll go to any lengths. Don't you agree to get this thing with this one guy?
I do. I do, and that's what I'm just kind of circling back here, sir, is once again, why do we have another process connection to Latah County? What's going on in Latah County? Why is it so important to these cult organizations, be it the Church of Christ or Christ Church, be it whatever other three-letter, all these intelligence agencies, in my opinion, are all occultists. So whatever three-letter agency interests you have, you can see that with the blazing star there on the CIA's foyer floor, right? Their logo's occultic. So what's going on there in Latah County? Why has this been a hotbed of activity that seemingly has been very important to these organizations for many years, but is now erupting to the surface, right? Where we're seeing Mormons seemingly have to take control of the state, the prosecution of this case. We see other organizations have a lot of weird activities that Doug Wilson's folks, and again, we have more process connections.
I think you're 100% spot on all that. The thing is for so long we see so many instances of them getting away with this type of activity, them doing it from declaring self-inflicted stuff, from 3 gunshot wounds to the head and all kinds of crazy stuff. Here, I think right now we're at a point where we see them panicking because all their bullshit's being brought to the forefront. And so the only thing that we can really hope is this will be the one time that they get called out and stopped. But if that actually happens, it remains to be seen.
Well, for sure, no, that's a great point, and I'll close out with this one last point here, on piggybacking on that note, and that is, appreciate the time here at the Purge, Kane, and if you want to purge later, let me know. It's been a great conversation. I hope folks have enjoyed the conversation here, and the nature of these things coming to the surface is what I'm getting at, and I've toyed around with. I would say this is the note I was talking about here. I toyed around with this idea in my brain hole. I've messaged back and forth with the Princess of Darkness there in regard to the same notion, sharing this idea is, what if there's an element of this nature, of this whole situation, where the feds are just fucking with the state and outing all of these criminals? There's a component of the feds that have been infiltrated or co-opted in which to then force all of these things to the surface through this kind of state, fumbling this case. For example, the state continually tells the defense and the court they can't produce evidence that they relied upon in their affidavit of arrest because it's in the ownership of the feds, and the feds won't give it to them. You got to keep saying you got to take it up with the feds, right? Are the feds really just stonewalling everything, or are they just intentionally doing it?
Wow, dude, that's a lot. I think we've said a lot to kind of chew on tonight for sure, and I'm sure hopefully other channels will pick up on it as well. They have been successfully. Did you see that another creator stole your Muppet thumbnail ideas?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, That's what I based my thumbnail tonight on. Actually, was a reply to that. But
Oh,
anyway.
that's awesome. No, I don't, Kane. I don't ever mind setting the standard. If folks want to copy me, I'm honored. You know what I mean? It means I'm doing some good shit.
Always has been that way, and always will be that way because I find
lead
that
from the front.
if you have a creative mind,
you
can always come up with new shit. But if you're just stealing stuff, eventually
there you
you're
go.
just gonna get caught out. You know.
You know what I'm talking. You're an artist. You know what I'm talking about. I used to do art in a different surgical fashion in combat, but I was led from the front then. And now I do art in a different fashion, and I still lead from the front.
A surgeon with a weapon. I love it. All right, brother. We'll try to pick it up tonight.
I was an artist. I'm an artist with all various small arms and other such activities.
Well, I'll make sure I don't wander onto your property at 2 a.m. holding some type of weapon.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying it. That's not brag hour. It's not brag hour or nothing. I'm not trying to be a tough guy. I'm just saying, like, a lot of taxpayer money was spent on training. My training for many years to acquire such skill sets, and I just I respect that. I'm appreciative of those things.
Well, I'll tell you, you brought ever since you've been with us since January, you have brought a whole new element of not only thought but creativity, and to all fun stuff to the show. And so yeah, let's pick it up tonight, 11 o'clock ish, maybe 11:30, and we'll do a late night. Maybe Miss Potts can come up and snark us out a little bit, and I'm gonna play us out with the reel. If you haven't seen it yet, stick around for that, and make sure you hang around for the commercial. Please hit that like button for me. If you're new to the Purge, please hit subscribe. If you haven't been to Operation GCD, he will be live tonight at 9 o'clock, JJ.
Yes, sir, with the Cult Rejects for our Fridays. Roundtable discussion on various conspiracy culture topics and other high weirdness.
Always a blast. If you think this chat was fun, wait till you get in there. So
We're
on
actually
that
talking
note,
about the process tonight. We got a big process researcher coming on tonight. So if folks are interested in more of these process discussions, definitely tune in.
kick ass, man. All right, well, I'm going to play us out on this. Thanks for being here, JJ. And we'll do more food talk tonight, too, hopefully. Sorry we didn't get too much food talk in today.
I look forward to it. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, my brother. All right, folks, here we go with the reel. And thank you for being here. And make sure you sub up, notify, and do all the things. Thank you for everybody for being here tonight. I appreciate it. And we'll play you out right here. Hold on. Oh, boy, that's big. How did that happen? That's what she said. There we go. We got to get one. That's what she said in on every show, right? I was wondering why it wasn't fitting.
I'm already giving you some. A lot, all day. That's all you've been doing is begging for treats. Because they're in there. Someone left the cupboard open. You can see them all. What?
Euphigenia Doubtfire, dear. I specialize
Where's
in
the
education
basement?
and entertainment.
Excuse me?
Of entertainment.
Aren't we gonna
of
see the
entertainment,
basement?
Of entertainment. Of
There's no
entertainment,
basement at the Alamo.
Candy and the sun. You make me a woman. Showtime. I know you're used to Lucy, but I run daggers for you. Daggers for you. I know you're used to Lucy, but I run. Go pump, pump, pump some neurons. I know you're used to Lucy. Dinner, dinner, dinner. Such a shunt. It tastes good. Such a shunt. I know you're used to Lucy, but I run. Surprise. Hip hop, bebop. Dance till you drop. Hip hop, bebop. Doesn't mean that they don't love hip hop, bebop. Bop, bop, bop. Dance till you drop. Hip hop, bebop.
alluring right now, so I've decided to cave and create a dating profile for myself.
I'm starting with a completely blank slate, so I will be taking all of my photos from my profile today.
I wanted to show my appreciation for literature, so naturally a photo of me reading outside would set the tone perfectly for my profile. And because I'm a multi-hyphenate with extensive hobbies and talent.
Welcome to another episode of Bad Design. Once again, having anyone proofread your work is the way to go. But there are certain times where employing a 13-year-old boy to check your design is more the way to go. And let's end on two good designs. Whoever took this picture, you're my favorite person.
You can tell from looking at me not doing well financially.
Do you know how this fire started?
Yes, I do. It was because of my cousin. And I don't want to mention no names.
Your cousin?
Yes.
And you say you think your cousin started this, do you know how or why?
He's mad because he can't get with me. I'm married to my husband, and it's a long story, just to make it short. Yeah, he already put him in a hospital once last month, and he figured he's going to do something else to get back.
All right, so right now, the fire has been put out. Thank you for the
car off right now, because I don't know if you're going to take off. It took you a while to stop. Turn the car off. That's all I'm asking you. Turn it off.
Sir, please, I'm asking you.
That's
I'm
my car.
begging you, please. Please don't do this to me, please. Please don't do this to me. Oh, stop! You're killing me! You're killing me! You're killing me!
I fucking love doing in the morning, okay? It's the fucking best time. I haven't even opened my eyes yet. It's already inside of me. Like, holy fuck, like, way to wake up and just, like, have a great fucking day. You know, like, I'm gonna go make you breakfast now. Like, fuck yeah.
My cousin and I visited my mom, and we thought that my mom had fallen asleep. So my cousin decided to tell me that she just took her 2 high school nieces out to dinner, and her nieces are obsessed with mukbang videos. You guys know what mukbang videos are? Okay, if you don't know, it's this big trend on YouTube. People order massive quantities of food, and they eat them on camera. So her nieces love these mukbang videos, and they're at dinner, and one of her nieces cleans her plate so fast. And my cousin looks at her and goes, "Wow, Bailey, you should do your own bukkake videos."
About to do 3. 1, 2.
What's your name, my love?
Bryan.
Bryan. Ooh, it's very close to brain. Are you a smarty?
I don't know.
Oh, then that means no. Oh, and darling, what's your name? Lindsay. Ooh, Lindsay, darling, what do you do?
I'm an attorney.
An attorney. Okay, just good. What kind of attorney? Defense. Oh, okay, we're fine. Okay, good. What is your favorite thing about being a defense attorney? You don't like it, do you? It sucks, poor baby. It's okay. He doesn't like his job either. Look at his face.
Jesus Christ. I don't even think the View wanted to show up.
This is my cake.
This is the
This is the smallest cake I've ever seen made. This is my cake.
I'm pretty sure I saw that cake ducking through a doorway earlier. What are you even saying?
You know how big I wanted my cake. This is the smallest cake I've ever seen.
Then go date the ones who get you bigger cake.
I will.
Well, good luck finding somebody who has the budget for a birthday building.
Birthday is over. Everybody leave. Nobody gets the small cake. Close the music. Bye.
I get it. I mean, that cake is just, you know, that thing is probably afraid of ceiling fans.
Oh, not again.
Because bombs are falling from the sky will hit the town.
It's not hard to.
Oh shit.
Now we're having a super life.
Yo, KB, is that the name you claim? Rolling through genres, let me play this game. Rap like a madman, Eminem with the slang, spitting bars so sharp like a rap hangman. From YouTube fame to Idaho's wild ride, you're breaking it down, putting truths aside. Kane B got the purge, no doubt he's the king, breaking down the case like a YouTube machine. Kane B the purge, bringing heat in the booth. Facts on the table, there's no room for proof. Throwing down lyrics while the world's watching. Is it guilty or free? That's the question we're knocking. Kane B the purge, taking it by storm. He's got the heat and the truth breaking the norm. We're all glued to this case, no one's letting go. Will Bryan be guilty or will he be let go? Kane B's in the game, watch him lay it all bare. Will justice find the truth or just disappear in the air? Here's my bubblegum pop, you ready or not? Kane B's in the mix with the case so hot. Rap, rock, pop, he's switching it up. Dancing through the genres like a YouTube cup. Got Kane B, the purge, putting the story in flow. Breaking it down with humor, watch the case blow. Boom, Kane B's riding with electric groove. Breaking it down, yeah, he's on the move. He's got the purge, so come and watch him reign. Sipping on knowledge like it's truth on a train. Kane B the purge, taking Idaho by storm. He's got the heat and the truth breaking the norm. We're all glued to this case, no one's let go. Will Bryan be guilty or will he be let go? Kane B's in the game, watch him lay it all bare. Will justice find the truth or just disappear in the air? Now here I am, R&B vibes on deck. Let's get a little smooth, but don't forget I'm bringing humor, I'm bringing the sound. But this case got us all spinning round. KB with the truth, it's hard to ignore. Like waiting for that next chapter in the lore. Kane B with the truth, it's hard to ignore. Like waiting for that next chapter in the lore.